What is up, fam? Hey, this is PC, and we are live for the 2023 version of PC and Friends. First and foremost, Happy New Year to each and every single one of you. There's people checking in. I'm watching the chat box from literally all around the world, from New Zealand, I see Texas, I see California. I know we have people from Canada on here. It blows my mind every year, just the reach that we get with this thing. We have people registered from 46 states, from 7 different provinces, from 8 countries, and from 4 continents. I think we have a map here that Matt can pull up that's going to show you guys what that looks like and where all the people from around the world were actually able to register from to attend this event here today. And just honored and humbled and blessed. And it's just a testament to the rock stars that you are, because you're giving up your time on a holiday weekend before you have to go back to school, to invest in yourself and to invest into your kids and to invest into your schools and into your community. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to each and every single one of you for being a part of this event and for helping me spread the word. Before I go any further, I also want to give a huge shout out to Bradley Skinner, aka DJ Phony Stark. How awesome was that intro video that he created there? He told me, he said, PC, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. And I was like, all right, man, like, what do you got, you know? And so he sent it over and I was like, dude, that is absolute fire. And I've watched it multiple times and I'm just like, dude, that is so sick. And so huge shout out to Bradley, DJ Phony Stark. We're going to be joined by him here in just a little bit, a couple more times for some dance party breaks in between some of these unbelievable speakers that we have lined up for you. We have 18 unbelievable guests that are going to join us here just to provide some positivity, some hope, some inspiration as you get ready to go back and kick off the 2023 spring semester. And so that being said, let's get this thing rocking and rolling. And we're coming out like, I'm a big boxing fan. One of my favorite boxers is Mike Tyson. And what I loved most about Mike Tyson was he was like a bull in a china shop, right? And like the guy came out in that first round and he was just ready to knock your head off. And so just like Mike Tyson, we're coming in hot and heavy here today. And our very first guest, and I'm super stoked to welcome to the show, is the relentless tattooed skateboarding principal, coming to us all the way from New Zealand today, checking in again on a holiday break down there. Super excited to welcome Hamish Brewer here to the show here to join us. Hamish, what's happening, my man? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, brother? What's up, PC? How are you, brother? Happy New Year.
Awesome, man. Happy New Year. Yes, sir, man. It's always so great to see you. And it's just an honor that you made the time to join us literally from halfway around the world, right, man? Hope you had a great holiday break. Like I said, I know that you're like out of the country and got a million things going on. So super stoked for you to be here. Want to talk to you, Hamish, about, we went into COVID, and when it first started, teachers were heroes. Right? Like it was like all of a sudden, like everybody realized, all these parents realized all of the amazing things that educators do for their kids. We're feeding the kids, we're getting them technology, we're doing this, we're doing that. But then all of a sudden, somewhere in there, that script kind of flipped, right? And all of a sudden we became like these villains, this negativity that surrounds education. And there's a lot of negativity out there, right? And they talk about, teachers are leaving the profession and we don't have enough teachers in the pipeline and this and that and everything else. And so to all of these rock star educators that are on here right now, and all these rock star administrators who are in the trenches and they're just fighting this thing out, what do you have to say to those people?
Yeah, look, let me just start by saying Happy New Year to every single one of you. And I just want to start out the year by saying thank you. I want you to know that you feel valued, you feel seen, and you feel heard, and that your work doesn't go unseen, doesn't go unnoticed. And we thank you for what you bring to the table each and every day, for standing on the wall, for protecting kids, for standing up for kids. I don't think, I want to look at it a bit differently. It's not that there's no teachers out there. We have amazing people out there. We just got to make this opportunity more amazing for those people, make the opportunity to impact people greater, and make sure that they feel valued, seen, and heard. Because when you don't feel valued, seen, or heard, you don't want to go to work each and every day. So we got to give them a reason to turn up. We want to thank them. And I've been thinking a lot about the man in the arena. Sometimes a lot of that negativity that we hear from people that haven't stood in the arena, that haven't put their name on the wall, put the sword in the middle of the sand and said, we ain't retreating, we ain't going back. But the only way forward is to push forward with lifting others up and surrounding each other with the greatness. You know, sometimes you can get caught up in that negativity. I'm going to say, let it go, baby, let it go, and surround yourself with the people that lift you up. They make you better. They make you feel valued. They make you feel seen, that they celebrate you when nobody's looking, that when it's just you in that arena, you in that audience, and they're not there, that you're shouting their name loud, that you've got something to say about them. You're celebrating all that you do. Like, let's start turning that switch. Let's celebrate the greatness that are out there. Like today, you got one of my boys up in here, Alsheimer, and let's give out a shout for Hope for Ray. The guy put his name where his mouth was, put it into action, did the work, and for his mom. So I wanted to give a big shout out for 2023 for shouting out Alsheimer Nation and doing the work that they say. But you know what, man? Let's live our legacy. Let's live our legacy. Let's not wait on others to decide what that legacy is going to be. Let's not negotiate on ourselves. We ain't negotiating on what we believe, what we stand for, what we turned up for each and every day to fight for kids and fight for each other.
100%. And we're going to hear from Jonathan right after you. And we're going to talk about that Ray of Hope, which is an unbelievable project. And I'm super excited to share that with the audience here as well. Hamish, you're a high energy guy. Like, you're one of those people I always say, like, even in these virtual events, it's like you're going to come through the computer screen. How do you, one of the things I always talk about is you have to have a relentless passion. Every single day I am going to bring it because that's just who I am and that's what I do. And you're the exact same way. How do you maintain that energy and bring it every single day?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with who you surround yourself with and what space you keep yourself in, I feel like I'm going to focus a lot this year on telling people not to focus on that comparison. Don't worry about comparison. Do the best that you can do in your space with what you can do with what's right in front of you. You can only control what's around you. I can't control the millions of people around me, but I can control what I bring to the table each and every day. I can control that energy. I can control all those sorts of things, like my attitude, what attitude I bust the doors down for, whatever it is that I'm doing that day. When I bring that attitude, I choose that attitude, I choose that effort. I'm not going to let others decide for me what that's going to be. I'm not negotiating on myself right now.
I love that, man. I love it. You were at Fred Lynn Middle School in Virginia, and you took a school underfunded, underprivileged. Like, there were a lot of challenges there, and you took that place and you flipped that thing upside down. To somebody that's watching this show right now that finds himself in a similar situation, where do they start? How do they have success in a situation like that?
Well, first of all, I didn't do it by myself, man. We created a sense of community, amazing teachers like my Bash brother, Twosome, going double D, Jonathan, backing us right up, double D. You put great people around you, man, and you lift them up so that they can feel like they've got ownership, that they feel like they have a voice in it. Everybody plays a part, right? Every single one of us. And we made it about community. We took it back. We stripped it down. We made it about family. It's about family. It's about living together, loving together, coming together around a common hope. And you know what? We drew out the naysayers. We silenced the naysayers. Disregard the noise, and we created our own noise. You're going to create your own energy, your own excitement, your own expectation, and your own vocabulary. For instance, I've talked for years about going one more round. That when we're down, we're not out. We don't fail when we're down. We fail when we don't get back up, right? And going one more round, we're the only ones ringing the bell, baby. And when you hear that bell ringing, it's us saying, we got one more. We're still coming, baby. We're still coming. The sword is in the ground, man. There's no retreat. There's no retreat when we're fighting for each other.
100%, man. So you have now become your full-time speaking, consulting, working with educators literally all around the world. What's next? What are your goals? What are your dreams as Hamish Brewer?
Man, I'm still in transition, man. I'm still figuring out what that looks and feels like, but I'm super excited. The Relentless Skateboard brand is going full bore, full live this year, and we're going to be fighting for more kids. My goal is to fight for more kids and to defend kids around mental health and well-being, to lift kids up, to fight for those kids each and every day, and continue to advocate for teachers and educators and communities everywhere, and be a voice for them as I continue to transition and decide what it is I'm doing. But super excited about Relentless Skateboards. We got skateboards coming out, wheels, gear, swag, beanies, hats. It's all coming, and all the proceeds, it's all going straight back into kids' mental health and well-being, where you can sponsor and help give kids the help that they need. And so that's what I'm fighting for moving forward. And my whole being is around that. And my whole being is around lifting educators up and communities everywhere. And look out, you never know where I'm going to step back in. It's coming.
I love that. I love that, man. Last question I want to ask you, Hamish, knowing what you know now and all the experiences that you've had, if you could go back and talk to your first year educator self, what advice would you tell yourself?
Hell yeah, man, 100%. No retreat. Keep going. Man, I wouldn't change a thing. You know, I've been disrupting that norm and being relentless right out of the gate, man. I think the biggest thing is don't be scared of the negativity, right? Ignore the negativity. It's easy to get yourself up in a box and lock yourself away. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. Just go full throttle, man, right in the face of it, and just tell them, hey, look, man, I'm not the one that needs to be quieting down. Keep up. We're going 100 miles an hour, baby. Let's go.
I love it, dude. Hamish, again, you know that I think the absolute world of you. Like you're an inspiration to me. I know you're an inspiration to countless other educators and to students all around the globe. Thank you so much for making the time to be on the show. Thank you so much for who you are and for what you do. I love you, dude, and I can't wait to see you again in person.
Love always, brother. Love always, baby. Let's go. Next up, baby. Next up. Let's go. Mount up.
Appreciate you, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Hamish Brewer, if you don't have his book called Relentless, it is absolutely unbelievable. It is it's one of those things like you've got to have it. You've got to add it to your collection. If you don't follow him on social media, you've got to do that as well. Just an unbelievable dude. Like I said, if you can't feel that energy, then something's wrong with you, right? Like the dude brings it every single day. His heart is in the right place. He loves kids. He loves educators, and just one of the best human beings on the planet. So transitioning here into our next guest, we got a poll question first, and this one came from watching my son get dressed the other day. Do you put both socks on first and then your shoes, or do you put one sock on and one shoe and then the other sock and the other shoe? And then the second part of that question is, do your socks always match? Because in his case, he put on a sock first, and then he put on a shoe, and then he put on the other sock and the other shoe, and I was like, dude, what is going on right now? And on top of that, the socks didn't match. I can't handle that myself. Like it's got like everything has to be lined up perfectly. And if it's not, it goes in like the empty sock drawer, right? Whatever. Or like they're missing their mates that disappear in the dryers and all that good stuff. So a couple more seconds here for that one to be open as some answers here are rolling in. And then let's see here what the survey responses have to say. Let's share those results. It looks like most of you put both socks on first and then your shoes, same here. And then do your socks have to match? That one was a little bit closer. 75% of you said yes without question. And then 25% said, Lord, no, you're just happy if you could find two socks there at the same time. So funny poll question to get started there. Now, transitioning into our second guest, as you heard previously from Hamish, he was actually a teacher at Fred Lynn Middle School with Hamish and played a huge role in flipping that school upside down. Super excited to welcome to the show right now. He is one of the best history teachers. He's a middle school teacher in Virginia. Jonathan Alsheimer is joining us here right now on the show. Jonathan, what's happening, my guy? And you sent me a picture earlier. You're like, I'm dressed. I am ready. Got the yes, sir. I love it.
Let's go, man. Man, Josh's Renaissance was up. Nathan, here we go, man. I'm so excited to be here. What better way to kick off the year? Like, shoot, let's 100%. Go. And what a lineup you got tonight, man. Let me tell you what, this is hot. Let's roll.
100%. It's a blessing to have friends like you and friends like Hamish and everybody else that's on the show, you know, that again, they just love education and love pouring back and love giving back to the world of education. I think that's what it's all about, you know. And so, Jonathan, I want to start out talking with you about, you know, there's several issues right now in education, from staff morale to student engagement, and specifically with student engagement, that's something that you just thrive on, right? Like you just absolutely crush it. And for those of you that don't follow Jonathan on social media, like you need to do it like right now, because he posts so many unbelievable lessons and activities that I just watching them and I'm like, dude, I want to go back and be in middle school again, right? So for somebody that maybe is struggling right now with student engagement, what are maybe 2 or 3 tips, ideas, strategies they could use just to get their students plugged into their classroom?
Absolutely, man. That's a great question. And I'll start off with this. Like, here's the deal. Don't look at like reinventing the wheel with what you do in your classroom. Think about it like this. Look at what you did before and think, how can I make that better? How can I make it a little bit cooler? For example, I taught this year and last year, I was teaching geography. And even as a social studies teacher, man, you think I'd love geography. I hate geography. It's wicked boring. And I'm thinking, how can I make this like doing maps and coloring it in? How can I make it a little bit different? How can I make it a little bit cooler? And that leads me into my second part. Look at what kids are interested in and think, how can you utilize that in your classroom, whether it be games and having fun? So what I did was I created a setting where kids were running away from zombies while we were learning about geography. And next thing you know, we had zombie apocalypse geography. Another example is taking simple things like, how can you turn a worksheet into an activity? How can you take something that you have kids sitting down and how can you get them up and moving them around the room? And it's everything from getting like, I call something the bag game, where you take sandwich bags and keep it simple. Don't get like crazy. Don't spend all your time on Pinterest trying to figure it out or spend all your money on teachers pay teachers. Keep it simple. But how can you get kids up, moving, collaborating, or creating? Like, I have sandwich bags on each side of the room. I got groups. Literally, I cut up a worksheet into questions and I put those questions in bags and I got kids running across the room and running back to their group and looking into their notebooks and answering the questions in their notebooks or looking at their information and trying to decide what the answer is and talking about the content. I mean, literally taking the most simple ideas and then trying to utilize those. Like, don't recreate the wheel. Look at what kids like. Think how you can utilize that in your classroom. And then take an idea where you're like, all right, I got this worksheet. How can I get kids up and moving around the room? And if you can have fun with the kids and play a game, boom, you got them down. Let's go.
100%. Yes, you have got to be relevant to their world. Like, they're not interested in the things that we did when we were kids, right? We have got to be relevant to their world, and we have to understand their attention spans are so short, right? So everything that we do has to be in 10-minute, 15-minute at the most chunks, and then we got to have them moving, doing something else, because that's the world that they live in. They're scrolling constantly, and if it doesn't catch their attention, you're done. Right. And so the other part of this that you do so well, Jonathan, is you actually give your students voice and you bring things to life. And so Hamish talked about this Ray of Hope project that you have spearheaded, which I just absolutely love. And I'm going to get you to talk about it here in just a second. But first, Matt, I want you to play the video here that's going to showcase the Ray of Hope. And then, Jonathan, we're going to come back right after that and have a conversation about what it's all about.
We raised enough money to buy a little over $7,000 to put together about 200 boxes today. We're going to take these boxes down to the local hospitals. We're going to donate them so the kids have something to open and put a smile on their face. We bought things like coloring books, crayons, fidgets, all these toys, things that kids sitting in a hospital could use to have some fun and occupy themselves, because at the end of the day, we want to make a difference in the lives of kids. And so I said to the kids, I go, listen, today you're going to put together something special for a child. And you don't know if this kid is getting through a minor surgery, if they're dealing with a life-threatening illness, maybe they have cancer. And this box is going to put a big smile on their face. The kids were so excited. A few years ago, my daughter Sadie was in the hospital. She had a throat surgery. She was in her hospital bed and she looked at me and her mom and she kind of mouthed, help me. And it was kind of tough for me and her mom to not be able to help her at all. And one of the cool things was a nurse had brought in a box for her. And when she opened it up, it was filled with all kinds of goodies. As I watched that, I thought, you know what? This should be in schools everywhere. Let's start a nonprofit to give back. We called it From Kids to Kids. We raised a lot of money to help kids in hospitals. We kind of took it a step further this year. My mom had been battling cancer for 13 years, and she was a teacher herself, first grade teacher, and she died in June. I'm going to change the name from Kids to Kids to A Ray of Hope after my mom, McKenry Alsheimer.
Did you guys have fun yesterday? Yeah! All right.
Our whole school got wrapped up in this, and the community just came in and donated in droves. We've had kids in our school acting like CEOs. I mean, creating advertisements, taking them around the neighborhood, drafting pitches, acting like leaders, showing leadership skills and potential in 6th grade. And they're leading by example, because right now we have schools all across the country that have jumped in, schools in Florida, schools out west, all over the country. And they're looking at what our kids are doing here in Spotsylvania County. They're looking at what our kids are doing in Chancellor Middle School. This whole project has made me so proud.
If that doesn't pull on the heartstrings a little bit, like I got tears in my eyes, and like I've seen the video multiple times again. Just hats off to you, man, for spearheading such an unbelievable, impactful thing. And again, giving your students this opportunity to give back, right? And so I would love for you to just talk a little bit about the project, obviously the significance that it has to you, and if other schools wanted to get involved, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the best part about this, PC, is that this came from, like, my daughter was in the hospital, as you saw in the video, and it was really just the smile that went on her face. I thought this should be in all schools everywhere. What better way to engage students than to get them learning in an authentic and relevant way? And what better way to do that than a giving back project? I mean, as the video message, I mean, the whole thing was about kids being leaders in the community, literally CEOs in my classroom. And quite frankly, like, what we did, man, the staff and students were unbelievable. And I had multiple kids talk to me afterwards, and you have kids that are like, well, I'm not really feeling math. I'm not really feeling science or social studies or whatever. Man, you talk about giving them a voice and an opportunity to create something special in the classroom. And when we did this, it was like, literally, like, I said, here's my idea. And this is both with the teachers and the students. I'm great at, like, coming up with a crazy idea, but it's the people behind it that made this whole thing work. And I literally was like, this is what I want to do. How can we make it happen? And the next thing you know, teachers were like, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And the students were like, hey, can we make our own flyers and take them around the neighborhood? Hey, can we email businesses? And I'm like, holy cow. And the next thing you know, you have these kids that oftentimes are sitting back and they're like, I don't know if I'm interested in school because maybe I don't have a voice, or maybe I don't feel like I connect with the content. Now, all of a sudden, they are on the edge of their seats. They're excited about what they're doing. And then that transcends into the classroom and into the content that you're teaching, because you're making them feel important. And I'll tell you what, man, everybody wants to be a part of something special. Teachers, superintendents, people out on the street, kids especially. And when you create that in the classroom, and I've had people say, well, wait a minute, this isn't my content. Shoot, this isn't my content either. I don't teach like building boxes 101. What I teach is kids, and how I teach them happens to be history. But at the end of the day, it comes down to this. I want kids to be able to start a business. I want kids to be able to be successful in life. And what we did is we created kids that were in 6th grade. They built a business in 6th grade, and we had leadership skills being taught. We were teaching empathy and love and giving back. And what better way to make a difference than to do something that's bigger than yourself? And we had kids that were showing up, and we had kids that were so excited to come to school the day it was being executed. And they're like, can we do this again? I had kids that didn't want to leave my classroom. I had kids in other grades that said they wanted to come in and help us out. I had teachers that were in all these other grades that were clearing their schedule that day to come in and help us out. And I'll tell you what, when we dropped the boxes off at the hospital, man, those people were just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to end up giving these all out by the end of February. Are you willing to do this again? I was like, well, shoot. And then the next thing you know, because social media is such a great tool, we had schools all across the country. Literally the week that we pulled off this project, the week before Christmas break, I had a school in Indiana send me pictures of their kids setting it up in a boardroom. They literally looked like CEOs in a boardroom. I had another school of elementary school kids. I think they were 1st grade in Florida running this whole project. We had kindergarten classes in Kentucky giving boxes to the Kentucky Children's Hospital. I mean, it's endless. And at the end of the day, you have kids writing, you have kids reading. I mean, that's school in and of itself. But you have kids that are taking a leadership role, and they're showing up to school and they feel like they're a part of something special. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen student engagement like this. And when it comes to teachers that want to jump in and do this, it's literally this. The name is A Ray of Hope. I named it after my mom. There's nothing, there's no buying anything, there's no doing anything. It's literally you deciding that you want to start this with your class. And whether you do 2 boxes, 1 box, 200 boxes, it doesn't matter. It comes down to what you want to put into it and where you want to take it. Shoot, just tag me in it so I can see your wonderful work. That's all I ask of you. It's literally you just leading with your heart and passion and love for kids and love for your community, and watch your children just give back and watch the engagement and love that they bring to the table. And I'll end it with this, PC. If there's as much love and heart and compassion as my kids and my staff and my students put into this, man, if the world would act like that, this world would look like a whole different place.
100%. 100%. And it has to start somewhere. It has to start with a spark, man. And you're definitely a spark, not only for your kids, but for so many people, young people and educators alike, man. And thank you for what you do and the inspiration that you provide to so many people, myself included, man. I think the absolute world of you. Keep crushing it, keep changing lives. And thank you so much for making the time to be on the show here tonight.
Thank you so much, PC. I appreciate it, brother.
You got it, dude. Jonathan Alsheimer, he has a book out called Next Level Teaching, another book that is a must add to your collection. And again, just a must follow on social media as well. Please reach out and connect with him about that project if that's something that you're interested in doing as well. Obviously, just a super, super cool thing that you can do there. Our next poll question here, this one comes from Lindsay Long in Stafford, Virginia. She submitted this one, and I think it's so funny. Is a hot dog a sandwich? And so your options are absolutely it is, or no. And so I'm interested to see how this one goes, because I've heard both sides of the coin here on this one. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I think I have to say no. Like, I don't think about a hot dog as a sandwich myself, but I can also understand some of the arguments where some people might say that it is. So we'll give that one here a couple more seconds. And then we're going to end that one and share the results. And most of you agree with me. 86% said, no, a hot dog is not a sandwich. So thank you to Lindsay Long from Stafford, Virginia, for submitting that poll question. Now, up next, our next guest. We're staying over on the East Coast, and one of the most brilliant, one of the most amazing minds in the world of education, and somebody that I just think the absolute world of. Dr. Shameka Gerald is joining us here on the show. I had the opportunity to meet Shameka. This was a few years back, and she hosted one of our Jocelyn's Renaissance student leadership tour events at Heritage High School. And it was one of those things where getting the chance to meet her and Tiffany Smith and like some of those people that you just meet and it just clicks, right? And it was just like, she is absolutely a rock star, just like Tiffany is an absolute rock star. So super, super excited right now to welcome Shameka to the show. Hey, Miss Gerald, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. You got your JRGC swag on too. I love that.
All day, every day. All day, every day.
I love it. I love it. So you work at a school called Yellow. And I know it's a foreign abstract concept to a lot of people. Explain briefly, what is Yellow and what is it all about?
Yellow is a 501c3 education nonprofit that is, the mission is to even the odds for all youth through education. And it was founded by Pharrell Williams. We just opened our first school in 2021 in Norfolk, Virginia. Yes, we opened a school in a pandemic, and we are happily into year 2. And our students are thriving. Our young people are thriving and growing exponentially each day.
I love that. So cool. One of the things that I talk about all the time is, how do you get your kids to dream different? And the most recent high school where I was working, it was one of those things where they lived in a 5-mile radius, a 5-mile bubble, and a lot of them didn't see beyond that. So how do you get your kids to dream different? But what I want to ask you, Shameka, is how do we get our educators to dream different so that in turn our kids can dream different?
I think one of the things that we fail to do sometimes is we focus so much on, like, from the administrator hat, to the superintendent hat, even to the department chair hat, on the kids, the students, the young people, the explorers, whatever you scholars. Sometimes we just need to take a step back and level up a little bit and think about what is it that the adults in those spaces need, because they are learners also. And so when you think about how do we get young people to think and learn and dream differently, it's no different. And I'm not trying to say adults are like childish or like kids, but it's no different than young people. You provide them with different, unique opportunities so that they can go out and experience those things, and they bring those experiences with them back into the classroom. And in that way, they're able to see, okay, I know that Jonathan was on talking about in the hospital, he took those, the boxes, which I love that activity and that project for young people. You might see Yellow jumping on board with that at some point. But what else could we learn in those spaces? What could adults learn about young people in those spaces? What can they learn about the different career paths and how projects work in a hospital space, and then take it back and apply it in their classroom? So I think we take what we want for young people and put I don't want to say the old people, but the adult learners in similar positions that are unique and different and things that we would have never imagined. Stop doing the same old crazy sit down and get this PD. That is the worst. So really those experiential learning opportunities. So sending out for internships, externships. One of the things that I did love about Heritage High School, is my video messing up? Yeah. one of the things I did love about Heritage High School is they had an externship opportunity partnership with Newport News Shipbuilding, where teachers went out and spent a week shadowing people in different work paths, and they got to bring those experiences back to young people. So I say, break the box. Let's not do the same old PD. Send the teachers out just like we would like to send the kids out. Send them out there, let them get experiences and see and trust that they're educators and trust their professionals and see what they're going to bring back and allow them the autonomy to put those things in place in their classrooms.
I love that. Break the box. I always talk about let's blow the stupid box up, because so many of the things that we do in education are because that's the way that it's always been done, right? And that's the fastest path to mediocrity that you can ever travel. And so along those lines, what do you see as next? What's next? What's the next big thing? Where is education going from here?
What I see next, I think in education, we're in cycles. So it's not anything that we would say is new, but I know that there is a huge focus on social emotional learning, student wellness, educator wellness. I also think the next step is creating those opportunities for what I like to call mashed up classes, where you're doing humanities and science and all of those things. I think schools are really at this point, we're trying to figure out post-COVID, how do we keep young people engaged? And the old way of doing stuff is not keeping them engaged anymore. So we're really pushing that envelope. And it's not going to be one thing that is going to be the next thing, but you're going to see multiple things springing up across the nation and internationally that are going to be really hyper localized to the communities that those schools serve. And it's not going to be but one thing. It's going to be this really hyper local focus on what is it going to look like in Newport News. That's going to be way different in the wicked cold area in which you come from, because today it was 70 degrees here. So there's some different things that we can do in Virginia. But it's going to be hyper localized. What are the major social justice issues in the areas that our young people are facing, and how are they solving those challenges? But also, how are we creating those educators that can help solve those challenges as well?
I love that. Last question I want to ask you here is, you're a visionary, you're a dreamer, you're a goal setter. Like, you're not somebody that ever sits on past accomplishments. What's next for Dr. Shameka Gerald?
I'm also not a person that thinks about what's next. So I never think about what's next. I think I'm just going to continue down the path of figuring out how do we transform education. So I put on my Twitter page, I traded in my box for a cosmos. I have a place where I exist now that has no boundaries. So figuring out that since there are no boundaries, what are some realistic, practical things that we can take from a restriction-free place and really share that across the world? I think we think we have more rules imposed on us than we actually do at times, and we're scared to push that boundary. So what's next for me is to keep exploring that space, and wherever the journey takes me, it takes me.
And I have no doubt that you will, and that you will excel and you will crush it, whatever you do. Shameka, thank you as always for making the time to be on the show. Again, like, I think the absolute world of you. And I believe, and I can't think of the date off the top of my head, but sometime in March, I'm coming back to Heritage High School. Tiffany can put it in the chat box, but it's sometime in March, I'm coming to Heritage High School for a student leadership event. And so I will see you in person and get to hug your neck there in person. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I can't wait to see you again soon.
Thanks, PC. I can't wait to see you.
You got it. Sounds good. Dr. Shameka Gerald, again, one of the best minds in the world of education. And if you had the opportunity this last summer to attend the Jostens Renaissance Global Conference, you got to see Dr. Gerald on the big stage delivering a powerful, powerful Ren Talk. And so along those lines, we are super excited to announce next year's Jostens Renaissance Global Conference, which will be taking place July the 13th through the 15th at the Hilton Anatole Resort in Dallas, Texas. We are so excited. It's a new location, a place that we haven't been in several years. The Leadership Academy will take place on that day before. Registration will open sometime this spring. The goal is always around the March 1st area, somewhere in there. So make sure you keep an eye on the Jocelyn's Renaissance social media accounts. If you've never been to that conference, and I've said this from the very first time I ever attended, it is the single greatest educational conference on the planet, and it's not even close. It's people dancing, it's people standing in chairs, it's kids on each other's shoulders. It is a celebration of what academics are all about. And it's an opportunity for the rock star educators and the rock star student leaders to be surrounded by other people with similar minds, similar outlooks, people that see education the same way that you do. And it just totally refills the tank, refills the heart, refills your cup, and gets you ready to go back to that next school year. And so again, if you have never been before, I promise you it only takes once. And it's one of those conferences that I will never miss again for the rest of my life, because it is literally that good. So we hope that you and your team will be able to join us this summer in Dallas for the Jocelyn's Renaissance Global Conference. Now, our next guest, and Dr. Gerald talked a little bit about social and emotional learning, which ties in perfectly here with our next guest. She spoke to at one of our Jocelyn's Renaissance virtual conferences here just a few summers ago. I'm super excited to bring onto the show LaVonna Roth, who's coming to us from Tampa, Florida. So LaVonna, I want to say what's up and how you doing? And I think you're on mute.
I just got that alert. You would think I would know by now after doing this how many times. But hello, Happy New Year. Hey, everyone.
100%. Happy New Year. How's it going? You got your lightning swag on. You're ready to go.
I am. We won again last night.
I love it. I love it. Like, they have just had an unbelievable run here. And like, I love hockey myself, and being from Nashville, I'm a big Predators fan. But what's super cool for me is that Jocelyn's gets to make a lot of these championship rings. And that last championship ring that we made for the Lightning, oh my Lord. Like, sometimes I just look at it and I can't even imagine wearing that thing, right?
Yes, it takes up half the hands and it sparkles like no other.
Right. It's just nuts. So LaVonna, for people that maybe don't know you or aren't familiar with you, talk a little bit about who you are, how you got to this point, and what it is that you do for the world of education.
Yeah, I was a teacher for 10 years and absolutely loved it and never planned on stepping out. But as we all know, life creates its own journey and different opportunities popped up and out. And it was one of those, I had a lot of trouble in school. I did not do well in school at all. My grades were not where I'd like them to be, or anyone would really like them to be. And when I started to see a cycle with a lot of the students I saw the same cycle with even my own daughter. It lit this fire within me that I went, you know what, we're more than grades. And so I ended up leading from brain-powered strategies, which is all about it. So I loved what Jonathan was talking about, the fact that taking a worksheet and turning it into something way more powerful and engaging, that's where it all began. As a matter of fact, my first book was going to be called Kinesthetic Worksheets for that exact reason. But we changed the title because everyone said, oh, it's about worksheets, and it wasn't. And so that kind of looking at all of the brain science and everything, I went, wait a minute, we have to put the brain into a state of learning before we can actually learn. And that is now called SEL. And a lot of when we look at success skills and what comes from that, that's what that whole category is. And from that, Ignite Your Shine was born. And our entire focus really is on what are your strengths, gifts, skills, and talents, and what are your passions? And then how do we put that together and create what you need to do in life so that you are successful and you're fulfilled, you're happy. And it does fall into the SEL, like you mentioned, because that's, we're going to do what we want to do, not what somebody else thinks we should be doing, or even what a system says we should be doing.
100%. And I think, one of the biggest things for me that came out of COVID, social, emotional, and mental health, it's always been a big deal. Like, it's always been an issue, but COVID really brought it to the forefront, and it's really helped us to normalize some of this conversation around mental health, which I think is just so powerful and so strong. What I see, LaVonna, from a lot of classroom teachers is some of them are a little bit intimidated by social emotional learning when it comes to helping their kids with that, because we weren't trained in that, right? As an educator, I never took a class on how to be a counselor or how to counsel a kid or a child, those kind of things. So for an educator that doesn't have that background, what are a couple of tips or strategies that they can use in their classroom with their students to help out on that social emotional well-being issue?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what Corey just even said in the chat when she said relationships. I'm like, that's exactly what it's all about. Is you don't have to have a lot of information knowledge. It's helpful if you have strategies and techniques, But one, I'm going to say it's the relationship. I think that's critical. But two, I've learned, and unfortunately it's been the more recent years, is that coming in, I didn't have to be the person that had all of the knowledge. I don't have to have the advice. I don't have to have a way to fix it. What I need to have is the sense to think empathy-wise, sit with them, listen, how can I support you? That simple question, how can I support you? And whether that's connecting them to somebody else, whether it is they want some advice, maybe they want a high five, maybe they want a hug, or maybe just the fact that they got to say it really, really helped. And so, it doesn't have to be having all of the knowledge. It goes back to simple skills that we can use to build those relationships, yet also tap into the humanity of each other. So I love that question because, yeah, it's a common thing that we hear.
Oh yeah, it's 100%. It's again, it's one of those things where I don't feel adequately prepared, adequately trained. So how can I help? And then you kind of get that helpless feeling, and then a lot of times you do nothing because you don't know what to do. So that being said, talk about some of the resources, some of the tools that are available through Ignite Your Shine. Where can an educator go to get some of these resources and get some of this wisdom that you guys have on your team that can help them in their classroom?
Yes, well, we of course we come to schools and we help create a culture where everybody wants to be. And the crazy part about Ignite Your Shine is that it was started for students, and then we kept having educators, administrators coming up and saying, "Hey, you have no idea how badly I needed this." And I was like, "What? Holy cow, wait a minute, this is a human thing." So obviously we can come work with schools. We do anywhere from keynotes to deeper work, but we also have lessons. The lessons are totally for free. So educators or directors of activities, if you want to go to igniteyourshine.com, the lessons there are entirely free. There's videos that you can show, explains all about Shine. We do use sign language because my degree was teaching the deaf. So sign is also embedded in there to help support the learning and how kids communicate with each other. But there's also that work of how do you take the social emotional learning and get the base of it to then we work with you to shift it into what you went back to saying, PC, about it being a separate thing, or I don't know how to put SEL in. It's a simple, you're reading a book, for example, and you pause and you share, how could this character solve this? Or if this time period in history, what are 3 different outcomes of what you could do and what might happen with it? So those are kinds of resources are available. Of course, reach out to us if there's anything we can do to support you. We are more than happy to help you. So thank you, PC.
Absolutely. And I just love everything that you do and those resources, because it's so important now more than ever to have those things. LaVonna, you're one of those people too that you're always thinking. There's always something that the wheels are turning, right? What is something that you are excited about for 2023?
Yeah, it's to a fault, PC. My team half the time is like, no more ideas. Like, yeah, well, welcome to my brain. For me, it has a lot to do when we talk about Shine and the strengths and passions particularly. We want to see a shift with this because it's not only just with students in the learning, but as educators come in, what are their strengths, what are their passions, and then teaching through that lens so that one, you create the culture of the school, but then that carries into the content. And with the burnout rate that we're seeing, the teacher shortages that are coming, it is critical that we create a culture in a place where people do want to be and they feel safe. We do a lot around psychological safety. So that's a big piece of we now embed into the work that we do, is that if we do want to see shifts and changes, then implementing that in is going to be critical. So our goal is to impact 1 million lives in the next 10 years. So let's do it.
I love it. And I have zero doubt that you will do that and probably even more. Thank you so much for who you are and for everything that you do. It's just such important work, and you just have a heart of gold. Thank you for making the time to be on the show. And unless they're playing the Predators, go Lightning.
All right, fine. I'll reciprocate. Thanks so much for having me, PC. Bye, everyone.
You got it. LaVonna Roth, again, just another absolute rock star, just a phenomenal human being. I would love right now in the chat box, we're talking about mental health, social, emotional well-being. What are the best things that you do for your personal mental health and your personal social, emotional well-being? For me personally, I'm a runner. And so literally I try to run each and every single day. And so that's just kind of my me time where I can think about whatever it is that I want to think about or that I need to think about. You can brainstorm ideas and different things that are going on. You can listen to music. Sometimes I run in silence. But that's what I do. That's something that helps to kind of keep keep me grounded and focused on where I need to be when I need to recalibrate. So I would love to hear in the chat box some of the things that you guys do for your self-care as well, because I think other people could learn and maybe get some ideas from those too. Now, our next guest, I am super, super stoked for this one. Those of you that know me, you know that I'm a huge baseball guy. I was beyond fortunate, beyond blessed to have the opportunity to play for Coach Steve Peterson at Middle Tennessee State University, which seems like dinosaur ages ago. And so I keep track of anybody and everybody that played at Middle, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's anything that makes it beyond that level. And it's just a cool thing when you see somebody that played at your university and especially went to a university where you had the opportunity to be a student athlete there as well. And so to introduce this next guy, and he doesn't know this is coming, but I got a video here that we're going to cue up. I was sitting at my grandma's house. My grandparents live in Illinois, not far from the Quad Cities. And so, of course, WGN is a big station there. And so the Cubs are on TV all the time, and I'm sitting there watching the Cubs and the Pirates, and this guy comes up to bat, just gotten called up here probably a couple of weeks prior to that, and comes up to bat in a huge situation in the 8th inning. The game's tied 4-4. The Cubs have their closer in, and then I'll let the video roll here, and you guys can see what happens next.
Keeps going right at him despite the 0-2 count.
Fly ball to left field. Michael McKenry, the fort! Oh! Baby, your Buccos lead it. Unbelievable. Wow. He's first in the big leagues. They're going to bring the house down. They want a curtain call from the fort.
So your first big league home run. I'm super excited to welcome to the show right now Michael McKenry. Played in the show for multiple years with the Pirates, with the Cardinals, with the Rockies, and now is a TV analyst for the Pittsburgh Pirates as well. Super, super excited to have Michael joining us here on the show here right now. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm humbled right now. Thank you so much for doing that. It brought tears to my eyes, just looking back and seeing your career and seeing some of the accomplishments you've may have done throughout your days playing, and how special baseball is, going back to MTSU. And man, I can't thank you enough. That was humbling. I don't know if you saw me. I felt like I was a little weak for a minute, letting it cry, but it's actually not weak. It's something that everybody should do.
Oh, absolutely, man. I get teared up when I still watch it. And I can remember I got in trouble because I yelled. I think I cussed at my grandma's house, and that's never a good thing. But I literally came off the couch, watching that. And it was just such an awesome, awesome thing. I love baseball, Michael, with a passion. And I come to big league games from a fan's perspective. And every single time when you walk through that tunnel for the very first time and you see the field and you see the grass and you see the dirt, and I get chills, and a lot of times I get tears in my eyes just because it's played such a huge role in my life. You got to have that perspective coming from the tunnel, from underneath, and coming into that dugout. What does that feel like?
I mean, to be honest, it's heavenly. If I could picture something that, what heaven's going to look like, you walk through that tunnel, the lights are just beaming down on you, the fans yelling, screaming, talking, just having a good time. You smell the popcorn, the hot dogs, everything. And since I was 5 years old, I said I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. I was given a glove. My grandpa said, "Hey, I think maybe you need this. You're a little buck wild. We need to calm you down. Give me a ball, give me a glove." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to play in the big leagues." And sure enough, I did. I was humbled, had a lot of bumps in the road, deep valleys, high peaks. But that's the reality of being able to chase your dream. Whether you get there or not, you're going to learn so much on that journey. And that journey was incredible. And to be honest, PC, it's been remarkable to see what has been working in my life and where it's going, because baseball is just part of the story, and I'm excited to see what's next.
It's so cool, and obviously you're unbelievably talented as a baseball player. But to me, what separates you so much is your work ethic. And you're one of those people. And like, you know how Coach Pete was. Like, he was the toughest, hardest working man that I've ever known in my entire life. And I'll never forget, and again, this is something you have no idea, but I was out there working a summer ball tournament right when you got drafted and you were getting ready to leave to go to your first assignment. And you were out there throwing on the field on that very last day. And Coach Pete walked up to you. And he gave you the biggest hug. And like, that just tells me so much, because I know who he is, right? And for him to think as much of you as what he did, like, that guy absolutely loved you. And like, that's, besides my grandpa, that's my hero. Where did that work ethic come from? And what was it that drove you, and what still drives you to this day to be the best version of you that you can be?
First, for a little context, PC, you're the reason, and guys like you were the reason why I went to Middle Tennessee. The hard nose, the grit, the relentless fortitude to overcome anything. And a lot of us were overlooked. As good as I was in high school, a lot of people overlooked me. What position do you play? I'll never forget July 1st, the first phone call I get is from Jack Leggett. And he says, hey, I'm not sure what position you play. I'm like, what? I'm a catcher, played some other positions. He's like, well, I have pitcher, second base. And I remember Coach Pete coming to my house and saying, hey, son, do you want to catch? I said, absolutely, I do. He goes, well, good, because if you didn't, I was taking my scholarship and walking back to Middle Tennessee, frustrated, mad that I didn't have a good one. And that's the reality. I mean, his ability to talk to people the way they needed to be talked to. He was hard-nosed, and he was one of those guys that was always level-headed, being able to tell a story, whether it was hard, whether it was soft. He always had some way of pursuing some persona and some story that gave you a lesson that never left you. And I completely agree, PC. He's one of those guys that's going to be in our hearts forever. Love the man to death. He did so much for me. He taught me what really being hard-nosed was. But I got to give my mom all the credit for where the work ethic came from. She grew up in foster care. I was born young, premature, and she really forced me to have a much better life than she had. That was her ultimate goal. She gave me that. She gave me the opportunities, and I watched her work 60 plus hours a week, 65 plus hours a week. She got me to tutoring. She did everything she could to make sure that I had a better life than her. And I saw that work ethic over and over again. So I said to myself, there is no other way. This is the way. That person showed me exactly what I needed to do by walking the walk. And that's what I did my entire life. And me and you maybe weren't blessed with height, weren't blessed with maybe the biggest bodies to go out and just get manhandled on the field, but we made the most. We squeezed our arms the best we could. And that's what you have to do in life. And that's what my mom taught me.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I don't know what you're talking about with not blessed with the size-wise, man.
I mean, actually, your chest is looking very barrelly, very big out here.
Thank you. I was hoping somebody would notice that. You know, I've been doing a little extra push-ups and all that good stuff, man.
I can tell.
Just like everybody that's been on the show so far, Michael, like, you're a dreamer, right? You're a thinker. You're a visionary. What's something that you're excited about? What's next for Michael McKenry?
I think the reality of there is nothing you can't do if you put your mind to, period. You know, I was a kid growing up. I was called dumb. I was called stupid. I was in resource. I couldn't pass tests. I did everything possible to prove that I was smarter than that what they were giving me credit for. But those learning disabilities, the tests that, you know, I just didn't have a very good knack for were just bogging me down. They followed me all the way to college, where I had to take some classes most people didn't have to take. They thought I cheated on tests when I did well. It was just remarkable. And the reality of it is I couldn't speak in front of people. I couldn't read. I was way behind. And guess what? I'm on TV. I'm an analyst. I couldn't speak in front of people my freshman year in college. Now I'm on TV in front of 1 million people, watching the Pirates games, pre-game, post-game, been on MLB Network, Outkick 360, all these different things. So I tell kids out there, don't just dream. Go chase the thing you're terrified of and just absolutely destroy it right through that brick wall, run through it, and just say, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to let this hold me back. And that's a reality. Kids run away from issues. They're not allowed to face them. And I say, face those demons, face those monsters, and kick them in the face, because that's what it's going to take to be successful in life. A lot of times we shell people back. And my mom's the greatest example of, hey, just show them something different. You don't have to do anything more than that. Just show them something different that you wish you had and see what happens.
I love it, dude. So true. And as one of our buddies, Jason Kuhn, would say, that's how winning is done. right?
That's right. That's right.
That's exactly how winning is done, is just hitting it right in the mouth and hitting it head on. We're getting ready to go into our next transition here, which is going to be around music, Michael. But along those lines, before we sign off here with you, what was your walk-up song and what was the significance behind your walk-up song?
It was You Can't Stop Me. And the reason I picked it was I just had knee surgery in 2014. I had a bunch of different walkout songs throughout my career, but it was an affirmation to say there was nothing that could stop me. God was on my side. He was pushing me forward. I was told, hey, you're probably not going to make it back to the big leagues. You're going to be on bone because the surgery is not very successful. Well, I did it once and then I did it again. I've had 5 knee surgeries. I've climbed my way. I've crawled back no matter what. And getting back to that mountaintop, the journey, not getting there, not being up there in the major leagues or hitting that home run. It's every aspect going through. And I would not take away every shortcoming. I would not take away all the grief, all the suffering. I love every bit of it because it's made me who I am. And I hope to impart it on the youngsters that are listening to this. I hope they can learn from my mistakes, learn from my experiences so they can face it a little bit better or a little bit differently.
I love it, dude. Michael, it means the absolute world to me that you made the time to be on the show here, man. I love you, and I've always looked up to you and respected you and followed your career. Next time I'm in Pittsburgh, we're getting together and we're going to Fatheads, my guy.
You got it. I appreciate it. And I think Coach Pete may be looking down on us and saying, my guys just cried. They cried for me. Come on, guys. Coach Pete, we always made that voice. I don't know if he really talked like that. We just all decided he talked like a little pirate or something. So, hey, PC, thank you. You're doing amazing things. God bless you. And everybody that's listening, thank you.
Love it, dude. Thank you so much, Michael. Michael McKenry, just an unbelievable human being. And again, just so cool to get to watch somebody like that, like I said, played at the same school and then made it to the show and still doing things in the show. And as great of a ball player as he is, he was an even better person and a better human being. Another person that if you don't follow him on social media, highly encourage you to do so and to be able to connect with him and to get some inspiration there. So we talked about his walk-up song, which is going to lead us into the creation of our 3rd annual PC and Friends playlist. This year, we're going to put a little bit of a different spin on it, however, and I want to know this time, what would be your go-to karaoke song? What would be your go-to karaoke song? And so even if you're not a singer, even if you're the shyest person on the planet, if you had to sing a song for karaoke, what would it be? Please put that song and that artist in the playlist, and we'll put that thing together for PC and Friends Volume 3. For me personally, I think that I would have to go with Vanilla Ice and Ice Ice Baby. Hidden fact, secret fact that you probably didn't know about me was that as a kid, I actually had longer hair and I had the Vanilla Ice wave in it. I had the Z's in my head going back. My mom always cut my hair for me. I was a huge Vanilla Ice fan, so mine would be Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. But put those songs and the artists in the chat box and I'll get that playlist set up on Spotify and sent out to everybody at some point here this week. Now, getting ready for our next guest. And it's crazy. I was talking with Jimmy Casas, who we're going to hear from here in just a second, earlier today. And he said, do you know Dwight Carter? And I said, do I know Dwight Carter? I said, Dwight Carter changed my life. Like, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this show right now if it wasn't for Dwight Carter. And so it is a tremendous honor for me right now to bring to the show one of my mentors and one of the best educators and one of the best people on the planet. Please help me welcome Dwight Carter, coming in from Ohio. Dwight, what's happening, buddy?
My guy, what's going on, PC? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I want to start off with this question, and it actually comes from Rita Pintavalli. She's the principal at Brazoswood High School. I think you know Rita. But her question is, what is the quickest way that a campus, that a school can make a positive connection with the business community?
That's a great question. I think the quickest way is to expose the businesses to what you're actually doing. So invite them in, but also take a group of students to that business to say, hey, we have an event that's coming up. We'd like to invite you. Here's some information about our school. Because keep this in mind. Every school across the country, 99% of the people that drive by it have no idea what's going on. Their only recollection of school or only knowledge of school is what they went through when they were in school. So the schools have to go out and share our story with businesses. One of the best ways to do that is to invite them into an event, leave a newsletter, leave some contact information, some paraphernalia, or some swag. And that way we're not always asking them to do something for us, but we're making a connection and reach out to them. So just build the bridge first, as opposed to waiting for them to build the bridge to you.
I love that. And I think something you said there is so key is doing something to give back to them as well.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a sponsorship, how can we turn it into a partnership?
Right.
And I think when you can look at it through that lens, because everybody goes to every single business, hey, can you give me money? Hey, can you give me money? Hey, can you give me money? But what are we doing back for them in return? Let's talk a little bit more about social media here, Dwight. And you're so good. And one of the things that I remember you saying the first time I heard you speak, if you don't tell your school story, someone else will.
Absolutely.
Talk about that. Talk about the importance of social media and what administrators and educators can do better to tell their school stories.
The first thing is school administrators, teachers, anyone in the school community, you have to understand that people are talking about you with or without you. Embrace that. Second thing is embrace the crowd, meaning the crowd is much larger than the people that are in front of you, i.e. through social media. So daily, say as the building principal, one thing you can do every single day is just share a positive quote or positive message, positive image. Think about your core values. Like what do you respect and value as a principal for your school, and share out something through social media that highlights one of those core values. For example, at Eastland Fairfield Career and Technical Schools, one of our core values is relationships. So what we can do is positive, like every single day, share something out through social media, regardless of the account. It could be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you choose to do. The TikTok, I don't do the TikTok, but if you do, that's fine. But share something out through your social media platforms that highlight the positive relationships that you establish. Then decide which type of relationships you're going to highlight. Is it going to be student to student, student to staff, staff to administration, administration to the school, community to the business community to the school? Which relationship are you going to highlight that particular day? Everybody has time to send out one positive message a day. And here's why that's important. When something bad happens, and I'm saying when, not if, something bad will happen in the midst of 186 days of school. When something bad happens and it blows up on social media, it will be just a blip on the radar because you have so many other positive messages that are already up and about. In the school community will know that you're on top of it because all the positive messages that you have sent out, and they recognize that that's just one event that happened, but it's not definitive of what the school is all about.
So true. And that makes me think about the George Couros quote with making the positives so loud that the negatives are hard to hear, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We talked a little bit to Dr. Gerald about it earlier, and I would love to hear your take on this, especially with your last couple of years, your direct experience at the Career and Technical Education School. Mm-hmm. What's next in the world of education? What do we need to do to best meet the needs of our students right now, today?
That's a great question. I think what's next, it's almost like a return to the foundation in one area, and that is really building those strong connections with students, because students have gone through a traumatic experience the last few years, and one thing that they desire now is human connection with those that they go to school with. But they also want a high level of engagement. So what's next is we have to continue to, how do we integrate technology in a way that's relevant to students? How do we make the curriculum that's really relevant, and then teaching students how to make a difference through the curriculum? One of the bigger things that's on the horizon is artificial intelligence. What is that going to look like for schools? I don't think it'll ever replace teachers, because that human connection does not come from artificial intelligence. However, we also have to recognize that that's a part of the kids' world. So how do we integrate their world into school so that it's much more relevant, much more rigorous, and they have a deeper connection and engagement to the school? So how do we go about doing that is we have to ask students for their input as much as possible, so that they take ownership of how they want the school to go. That way, education is something they're experiencing. It's not just something they're going to. It's an experience that they're having, and we're helping to create that.
So true. And it's just like if you watch the pre-show with Bradley, and we're going to see him here again here in just a couple of minutes, and he's doing the whole DJ thing from his joysticks and this and that. And, you know, and I'm just like, whoa, like, but that's, you're right. Like that's the world that we're living in, and specifically that our kids are living in. And so we have to find ways to adapt that into our teaching, into our curriculums, and embed that in our classrooms on a daily basis, man. Dwight, want to say thank you. As always, you know, again, like that, I think the absolute world of you, and can't wait to get to see you again in person. Thank you for everything that you do. Happy New Year. And I hope that 2023 is your best year yet, buddy.
Yes, sir. Take care, PC.
Thanks, man. Dwight Carter, again, another guy that if you don't follow on social media, you need to go and do it right now. One of the best minds in the world of education, and just another, just salt of the earth, genuine human being. I absolutely love that guy and think the absolute world of him. Now, our next guest, and this is another person, like I said, that Dwight Carter changed my life. This next guy changed my life as well. I had the opportunity to speak and to travel. I spent, gosh, I don't even know how many years we spent together, but probably 5 or 6 years. We're basically for periods of time we lived together in a tiny home, and we traveled around. And I can remember my very first speaking gig was on September the 6th in 2016. We're in Fort Dodge, Iowa. And I thought that I knew how to speak because I had done some presentations at a conference before. And so I went up there and I did my thing, and I felt pretty decent about it. I was like, that was pretty good. And then Mike Smith took the stage, and I was sat there and I was watching. I was like, dude, I just got blown off of the stage. But what was so awesome about Mike was that from day one, I just told him, hey, I want to know, like, how can I be better? And so literally every single day we would break my speech down, we would build it back up, and he would say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Like, again, I wouldn't be the speaker that I am today if it wasn't for Mike Smith. And I think what's so cool to me about Mike is that he shares his passion, and he shares about chasing your dreams with, I don't even know how many kids the guy has spoken to, but he actually walks the walk. And so he talked for so many years about opening his own high school. And so before we bring Mike onto the show here, we got a little video here to show you guys how he made his dream into a reality.
From the start, Bay High is a place you choose. And for some of these students, it might be the first time they've applied or chosen something based on their focus area.
We've got creatives, we've got quiet leaders, we've got unconventional, thought provokers in our class. We've got kids that want to be loud. We've got kids that want to be activists. I think our school's full of kids that want to push the envelope and want to push the margins, but they also want to make a difference and want to give back. And I think that's why they're coming to Bay High.
What we do now in education now is based on a grade. It's getting the answers on a test, right? And I think there's a pull to get away from that. And I think we really want to get away from that at Bay High. We don't want the grade to be all there is. We really want it to be more than that. Bay High shows how public school can be responsive to what business needs, and it allows us to connect kids with these businesses and show them what it actually looks like to be inside an office. Like, what is the culture of that office? Why would I even want that job? That's what Bay High kids are getting from these businesses who are partnering to make this happen.
We're going to do school differently. So it's not like line up in rows and do tests. Like, we're actually going to do some hands-on, real world, real life experiences.
So they start off their junior year taking Take Charge in digital design. And that really lays a firm foundation for them to be successful, I think, in the program. So in Take Charge, we're really taking a imaginative life plan approach. They'll learn about the financial literacy. They'll learn about how to live their best life and how to manage their money well, because that allows them to live an awesome life. And then in digital design, they get, of course, a kind of roadmap with Adobe Suite, all those really key technical platforms that are needed for creatives in this world. Then junior year, second semester is more kind of fun engagement with, they take sport and event marketing and video production and photography. They're still kind of laying that foundation, getting those technical elements with running a camera or video camera. In sport and entertainment marketing, they get kind of that event planning, and they start getting their feet wet with marketing, which then ties into their senior year, where they get to really dive into personal branding and marketing, and they get to really experience what do they want their story to be, their brand to be, and they help kind of get to make that mold. these kids are going to be coming for your marketing departments. They're coming for your communication departments. They're going to know how to code, shoot and edit, photo, video, capture audio. They're going to know how to put on events. Our team's job is to make sure that these kids get foundational infrastructure skills and certifications. So that ranges from getting their driver's license and a bank account, registering to vote. They're meeting business leaders and professionals in this community. And we hope that they're going to get excited about a certain job and they're going to put their heart into it.
They're walking around these businesses, they're walking around our space, and I think they're genuinely excited about the opportunities that they have growing forward. They just need to develop the skills. And I think that that's what they're starting to connect the dots to, is if I learn this thing and get really good at it, I can have this awesome job someday. And I don't think they always saw that.
All right. Let's welcome into the show Mike Smith. Mike, what's happening, dude?
What's up, PC? You're looking good and you're doing an amazing job tonight, my friend. You're crushing it. It's been a really fun night. Thanks for having me, bud.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad that you're able to be here and join us again this year, man. And as I was leading into that video, I talked about, like, for years, like, you poured into kids on the road and you're traveling and you're doing this and you're speaking 150, 100, God knows how many times, right? But you always talked about, like, you had this vision of this school that you were going to open, and now you've turned that vision into a reality. Talk about what that feels like and talk about the experience that it's been so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's been interesting. I think the thing that's cool about this is a public high school. So this isn't some, like, private school that we, did this on our own. We really had to create a partnership with our public high school. And so for us, I think it's been this really eye-opening experience for me on how engaging with the public high school system works. I've spoken at a million schools, but I've never had one inside of our space. So just everything from doors, security, safety, the whole process, staff, everything was new to us. You and I kind of flipped roles in a lot of ways, and I've learned a lot in these last couple of years. But it's been incredible to see kids in the space every day. It's been awesome to see kids excited about public education. Having a ton of kids apply to go to a school that is a part of their public education doesn't always happen. And so I think for us, we've figured out a really cool way to make public education all the things that everyone's talking about it being. And I think that hopefully I can offer some tips tonight to some principals and folks listening on how they can do the same. But it's been awesome, man. It's been everything that I thought it would be, 1,000 things I never expected it to be, obviously. But the kids are always what drives it, and our kids are freaking awesome. Pete Ferguson's a dude that is in the chat tonight. I saw him. He hosts a radio show in town, and he had a couple of our students on talking about, their experience with podcasting and why they go to Bay High and the stuff that they're learning and where they want to grow into their careers, and just how Bay High has kind of helped them shape the direction that they want to go. And that's the reason that we do it. And so it's been cool. It's been really cool to see it work and to see it be something that hopefully is a model that other people can do with their public school, wherever they're at as well.
It's so true. And as you know, not everybody wants to be a scientist. Not everybody wants to be a veterinarian. And for those kids that have other interests, a lot of times they don't have the avenues in the traditional school. And that's what you've created there. And I think that's what's so cool, because, again, it gives them an opportunity to belong to something, right? And that's what we all want. We all want to belong to a family, to a tribe, to a group of people. And that's what you're creating there, is that opportunity for them to do that. And so that being said, you've talked about opening the school, and now you've opened the school. You're a dreamer too, just like everybody else. What's next?
Yeah, of course. We already signed a lease for Bay Omaha. So we're about to open up our second bay. And so the big thing in 2023 is we're going to open up another space like we have. And so, my dream is, at the start it was survive. For the first few years, it was like speak and survive. And then maybe this can turn into a career or a life someday. And that was 12 years ago. And now I really think that we're on to something like, I'd call it like the YMCA 2.0, like maybe what the YMCA would have continued to be if serving youth was their primary goal. And so I think for us, we've got this really creative, cool, awesome space that kids are choosing to go to, that kids want to be at. and we're able to wrap an incredible education experience around it. And so we have everything from kids showing up to learn how to skateboard in elementary school to high school kids that are trying to, learn these fundamental business skills so they can get a job someday. And we're in the process of launching a program called Gap Year. And so kids can take a gap year at the Bay. And so we launched that in February. So this is for 18 to 22-year-olds who maybe they didn't graduate high school, maybe they're not headed to college, they don't know what's next for themselves. And so they can take a gap year with us where they'll learn a lot of those same skills that we talked about in that video. They'll get their Adobe certification, their full stack certification. Dwight was talking about AI earlier. Kids are going to be the ones pushing that and deciding how that integrates into our businesses, because we're too old to get it. Like, they're going to use it and understand it, and it's fun and it's gamified. We're going to have to figure it out, as just like we are with TikTok and everything else. But I think what we're creating is just something that can happen anywhere. And so we're opening up another one in Omaha, and we're launching a ton of deep new programs in Lincoln. And so, yeah, I'm staying busy and I'm loving it. It's been really cool to be able to come back and to really just focus on Bay and what it is and what it can be.
It's so awesome, dude. And you're one of those people that you're grinding, you're thinking, you're working, it's always about what's next. And we've had conversations about that before. But I do hope that you intentionally at some point, certain points throughout the year, you take the time to pause and just to think about the lives that you've impacted, mine included, because I speak a lot, man. And you know that, I'm on the road a lot, and I can't tell you how many places I go where there's kids that still come up and there's educators that still come up and that they talk about you and something that you said. Wow. And whether it's socks for the homeless or just the inspiration to be comfortable in their own shells. Right. And so I hope that you make some of those moments to pause and to just really realize the impact that you've made on so many lives. And I know you're nowhere even near being done. I don't think you'll ever be done, but dude, I just appreciate you. I appreciate who you are and everything that you've done. I know so many people in the chat box have commented too, and just so great to be able to see you again, man. Thanks for making the time to be on the show. And I can't wait to see you again when I get back to Nebraska, dude.
Of course, PC. I love you. Thanks, everyone. You guys have a good new year.
Awesome, man. Mike Smith, another, like I said, he's just a great human being with a huge heart. And he had this vision, he had this dream, and obviously not the traditional path that, the stereotypical leadership kid might take, but he had this vision, and he's one of those people, once he gets his mindset to something, it's game on, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says, there's nothing that's going to stop him, man. And so just such an inspiration and to so many people. And again, if you don't follow Mike on social media and keep up with all the great things that he does, if you're ever in Lincoln, you have the chance to stop by the Bay, awesome coffee shop, and obviously you can see the school and check out some of the cool things they do there as well. Now, we have been rocking and rolling here. I'm trying to look and see what time, an hour and 15 minutes solid. We're going to take about a 90-second dance break here. So at this time, you got 90 seconds. We're going to welcome back to the screen DJ Phony Stark, 90-second dance break, and then we'll be right back after this with Carrie Yantzer. All right. Another huge shout out there to DJ Phony Stark, Bradley Skinner. Like, how cool is that technology? Like, just absolutely insane. And you can see all the subway stuff, and they've got the different things on the screen back behind it. I'm just like, dude, that is so sick. I absolutely love it. So we'll have another dance break here coming up here in just a little bit. But right now, I'm super stoked to welcome in our next guest, Carrie Yantzer. She is from Colorado. She was an educator for a number of years, and then now she works with Capturing Kids' Hearts, and just an unbelievable person and just a huge heart of gold. Please help me welcome to the show, Miss Carrie Yantzer. Hey Carrie, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on here. It's so great to hear from everybody. It's like so motivating. Yes. Welcome in.
I love it.
23.
Yes, ma'am. And I love your backdrop, your Christmas tree. I should have made that a poll question. Like, do you take your Christmas tree down on Christmas Day? Do you do it like before New Year's, or does it just stay up? Like, how do you decide when you're going to take yours down?
When we have time. So that's like, you get these ideas. Like right now, yesterday I had this idea to remodel my office. So that's where my husband is. And I just texted him and I said, stop sign. I got to get off of mute. And so we'll see how long the Christmas stuff stays up, because we're on a new project.
Right. I love it. Carrie, you're somebody that I can spend 2 minutes with you, and it's just like that. Like, I can tell like your passion and your heart for education. Why do you love education so much?
Oh my gosh. I think I love education so much because of what this is all about, what we just all have heard and listened to, and the incredible heart, because it really is about service beyond self. We give beyond, and it's about what we get to do. And just like everybody on this call and everybody that has spoken, and somebody has tapped us on the shoulder and said, I see something in you. I see that heart, that passion. And for me, I've known since like second grade that education was my path. And I feel so honored and so blessed to have incredible people that have entered my life, because, like Michael's story was so touching, because so many of us come into that. I remember my high school counselor looking at me and saying, oh, people like you clean houses. You don't go to college. And I was just like, what? And so being able to go to college and be a first generation college graduate and seeing what we can do for others just is like, that's a bucket filler for me. And I was honored enough to have so many incredible people, and just even everything in the last hour and 20 minutes that we've heard and learned from others has just been, woo, so many cool ideas.
I love it. One of the things that you talk about a lot is your passion and your purpose. Talk about that, the significance of that, and just explain that to the listeners.
Well, I've always been grounded. I do work for Capturing Kids' Hearts now after 31 years in public education, from a school counselor, teacher, to a principal, district level, state person. But years and years ago, Flippin, who founded Capturing Kids' Hearts, used to say passion, purpose, plan. And what came for me is like this, like I was like, that makes so much sense. And for me, our passion is to love and educate every student every day to the best of our ability. And every purpose we do should support our passion. And once our passion and purpose are in alignment, we create a plan. And that's just like how I've always led and always been a part. Like when we talk about kicking down the door, busting out the box, that really is, anytime somebody came into my office and said, hey, here's my thought. And I'm like, okay, does your purpose support our passion to love and educate every kid? Because like for me as a building leader, my job was to be the number one fan and supporter for every person in my building, and to find the resources to meet the needs, to do what we have to do, and to dream. We started a kayaking sailing club in a landlocked state in Colorado. Talk about blowing the box. We blew it off. Wouldn't recommend that to you talk to HR, but that's another story.
Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, right? One of those kind of deals. Yes. Carrie, the people who are on this call right now, again, they're the rock star educators, and they pour so much of who they are and of what they are into their schools and their kids and their communities. And a lot of times they get beat up and they get beat down and they get just exhausted, right? After spending so many years in education, I would love for you to speak for just a minute here. Talk about the impact that educators can make on so many students' lives over the course of their career.
It's amazing what that small, that whole little story of drop a pebble in the water and that ripple effect, that is really true. And we do. I mean, and Jimmy Casas talks about it, sitting on the edge of the couch. And I always remind myself of thinking that. And right now, the power and the impact of what we do and what people on this call do for education is insurmountably amazing. And we can never give up, because it's that moment that we feel like we're going to step away is the moment that you get that Facebook message, or you get something that says, hey, I just want you to know, because of you, this is what happened. I mean, just this, and he's actually on the call. I lost one of my mentors just this past week, and I think about, he used to always say to me, Carrie, we can't be the keepers of the keys. And that's what I say to the educators. Mike McMillan said that to me all the time. And I used to say, what do you mean, Mr. McMillan? And he said, we have to give our kids the tools. We have to stop asking our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? We need to be asking them, what's your passion and how can I help you achieve it? And where do we need to go? So the impact is incredible. And we got to keep being relentless. We got to keep going forward, because our kids, we have a gift. God blessed our educators with such a gift. So all you educators, keep giving it and keep doing it, because it's a beautiful day in paradise. And what you do is so incredibly important. And I am so humbled to be among so many incredible educators.
And Carrie, speaking of gifts, you have a gift as well. And just again, like the number of lives that you've impacted and that you continue to impact. I'm just so grateful that our paths crossed several years ago, and that we've been able to maintain a friendship. I think the absolute world of you, and you're one of those people that the world of education is better because of you and because of all the great things that you do. Thank you for making the time to be on the show here, and I can't wait to see you again soon.
Thank you, PC. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Carrie Yantzer, just absolute rock star educator. She's involved with Capturing Kids' Hearts. You can also follow her on social media there as well. So the transition for this one is in the chat box here. If you weren't teaching, if you weren't called to be an educator, if you weren't in the education field, what would you be doing if you had to do some other career besides teaching? So I would love to see that in the chat box. For me personally, I would be in the Coast Guard. I love helicopters. I love swimming. One of my favorite shows is Deadliest Catch. And so some of those search and rescue missions they do, just absolutely incredible. And just the work and how much those fishermen depend on those guys. And so I think that would be a fascinating career for me. So I would love to hear from you guys in the chat box. If you weren't an educator, what is it that you would be doing for your career? As you're putting those answers in, let's welcome to the show our next guest. Super excited for this one. Please help me welcome to the show Tom Murray. And I'm not sure where Tom is tonight. I know he lives in Pennsylvania, but we'll have to see here. Tom, where are you checking in from?
What's up, my man? I am home for another day, and then I go to Louisiana and Texas for the rest of the week. But what an honor it is to hang out with you. How are you, my friend? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's super exciting anytime I get the chance to connect with you and to spend some time with you, man. So talk about like some of the exciting things. What are you excited about for 2023?
So the first thing I'm going to say is, Carrie, how are you? I miss you, my friend. It's good to see you. But Carrie dropped Jimmy Casas' name, so I know Jimmy's on the show. Has he been on the show already today, or is he later on tonight?
He's coming up here in 2 people.
All right, so if he opts out, as soon as he said, because Jimmy's one of my best, I'm out like later, almost hung up, like, oh, there's a Jimmy job. I see my man Dwight. Love you, my brother. How you doing? All right, so to point to your question. Happy New Year, everybody, first of all, and thanks for having me on. What am I excited about? For me, all the work that we do always goes back to the people, and I just have so much hope in our people. No matter where I go around the country, I get to work with incredible people that are working tirelessly for kids, and they give me so much hope. It doesn't matter if I'm in Louisiana this week or Texas. No matter where I go, I'm going to be working with people that they go to bed worried about other people's children, and with their backs against the wall in the last number of years, they've crushed it for kids. And so what gives me hope first and foremost is the people. What gives me hope as well is our kids. They're freaking brilliant. Like, let's get out of their way sometimes and let them run, because the things that they're doing. I was just in California just before the break, and I watched these students in Santa Ana. Shout out to Jerry Almendez, an incredible superintendent, one of my buddies out there. And I was watching some of the work that they were doing. And, sometimes I think and I'm not talking about everybody that's watching this, I'm talking about myself, can be the biggest barrier to kids' success. And I'm not putting that on other people. I'm talking about me. Like, how many times was it me early on, whether when I was teaching fourth grade or when I was teaching secondary, did I put the cap or the lid on what was possible for my kids because of my limited mindset? So the second thing that gives me hope is our kids, because they're brilliant, and the incredible things that they are doing to solve innovative solutions, to solve problems. Our world so desperately needs their brilliance. And to go back, the other part of hope with educators is educators are giving them opportunities. I believe in access. I believe in opportunity. And so kudos to educators who are given that. But those are two things that give me hope.
I love that, Tom. Let's talk about staff morale, because that's an issue in schools literally all around the globe. And I'm sure you've heard it a million times, just like I have. Like, my staff is struggling. My staff is struggling. What are a couple of ideas, strategies that not only administrators, but a lot of the people, the educators that are on here, they're on here because they're the doers, they're the movers and the shakers. What are some things that these people can do to help to lift those spirits, lift the morale of their colleagues?
Yeah. So first of all, so many times where I'll go places, get to work with educators, get to work with admin lots of times, get to work with teachers lots of times. And sometimes you'll hear the Tom, can you make sure to tell the superintendent this message too, or the principal this message too? First and foremost, you got to control your own morale. And I know that's easy to say. I know it's a challenge to do. I've worked with incredible leaders. I've worked with folks that have been toxic. I get the realities of the things that are out there, and it is very, very real. But you've got to control you first and foremost. So my buddy Inky Johnson talks about controlling the controllables, and I know others do as well. And one of the things when Inky talks about in controlling the controllables is you can't change the outside. There's so many things in life that you don't have control of, no matter what the situation is. But there's many things in life, your attitude, your mindset, the effort that you give, that you get to control. So I'll say control the controllables in that. So meaning this, if I'm a teacher and I'm in a place where there is low morale, and that's absolutely a real thing, I'm in no way knocking that at all. I see it all over the place. You get to control what happens in your classroom. So my next piece, besides controlling the control, would be model what you're looking for. So model to the kids a safe, loving, inclusive environment where they can and should be. Well, that's going to create an environment that one period a day, or for however long you have them, where morale can be high, because it's not just about staff morale, it's about student morale as well. To me, you can't just say one, it's both, it's people, right? And same thing with admin, right? I don't think we can just separate those, because together, when we're working together in these pieces, they certainly all interconnect. And so model what you're expecting. So to talk to my admin, gets to work with admin all across the country, you better be modeling what you're expecting for teachers. Don't tell teachers to go build relationships and then never spend time building relations in faculty meetings. Don't tell teachers, I expect you to get back to parents in 24 hours, yet as your principal, I get a 6-week grace period. Like, that is some of the biggest culture killers, morale killers that you're going to see. But to me, that's just like being a dad. Right? Like, I can tell my son, I can tell my daughter everything that I want them to do, that I expect them to do. But at the end of the day, you know what they do? They watch. And my words at times in my world have also not backed up what I've done, and just being real, being vulnerable there. And so I think it's controlling the controllables, but I also think it's modeling the desired outcomes. And number 3, it's real easy in our world to do this. Like, it's real easy to be like, well, if my grade level partner, if my principal would finally, if our superintendent would actually, if our board would actually, and doing this, right? That's real easy. You know what's hard for me? Looking in the mirror and asking the same question. What about you, Tom? How do you influence that? How do you impact that? And so when I think about those pieces, it's looking in the mirror and saying, like, okay, well, how can you make this better? I believe that every opportunity, every time we interact with people, it's an opportunity to either build the culture up or tear it down just a little bit. Which one are you? Right? And so when we process these pieces, I think it is modeling. I think it's controlling the controllable, but I think it's really looking in the mirror saying, what is it that I can do? I can't control my principal. I can't control my grade level partners. I can control my attitude, my mindsets, my efforts, the way that I interact with the people around, so I can give and love the best that I can. you know, when we think about all the anxiety, all the pressures of all the COVID aspects and just getting to see it around the country, it has been so real. The trauma that folks have gone through, the struggles that people have gone through. And so I really believe we have such a mental health crisis in our country. And I think we have to separate out a little bit, like true mental health struggles and needs with morale, right? Things that maybe we're taking for granted. And to me, yes, they can overlap 100%, but there's also times where I have to say, like, which piece are we talking about here? And so I think big picture, I think our schools need more mental health support, whether it's SEL when we're talking about our students or supports for, you know, for our staff members. I just did a webinar for Future Ready Schools where we interviewed a district in Missouri right before the pandemic. Their elementary school lost everything when a tornado hit it. They went and they rebuilt, and then something happened and mold ruined everything again. And then the pandemic hit, and they've just been through trauma after trauma, and then a teacher death in front of the school. Like somebody got run over, and like literally it was horrible, like trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, like every reason in the world to throw your hands up and be like, I can't do this. But I left that so inspired and so encouraged, because they were like, the work that they were doing was so important that they were going to do whatever it takes to love on their people, to hire the staff, to support their teachers, to support their students. So their social workers, for instance, don't just work with students. If you want to sign up to work with your social worker, to work with one of their counselors or school psychologists as one of your staff members, you can do it too, because you're part of our family. And so bringing it back to, let's not lose our way and our purpose with this work, but making sure we also take care of ourselves in this process. You know, educators are such loving and giving people that we often run over ourselves with that selfless heart. And every educator that I worked with and the amazing people that I've worked with, that they have such a selfless heart, but we can't forget that you are also worth it too. So with those pieces, maybe some things off the top of my head after on the New Year's, after being off for a little bit, that maybe can help, or at least maybe change our lens just a little bit.
Absolutely. That perspective piece. I love that so much, Tom. And you talked about Future Ready Schools, and you do a ton of work with Future Ready Schools. Give me about 60 seconds. What is Future Ready Schools? What's it all about? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Future Ready Schools launched from President Obama, launched it at the White House a number of years ago. Really admin driven. It's not, and teachers are a vital part, obviously, of creating schools that are future ready. We talk about, but it's the big picture pieces. I encourage you to check out the futureready.org. We don't sell anything. We raise money for what we do. We work with school and district leaders all across the country. Jimmy Casas, who you'll be hearing from, I guess, and just a few speakers, has helped to lead our principal strand over the years. Jimmy and I co-lead a lot of the events that we do. Lots of professional learning that's completely free. So check out futureready.org. Lots of resources, lots of tools, lots of also like Facebook groups and different things that you can tap into just to connect with great educators across the country, tap into great resources that are there. So check out futureready.org. It's been a pleasure to lead that. We just hired Dr. Adam File, good friend of mine, an amazing educator out there as well, who's going to be helping to lead some of the way with me there too. So I encourage you, no matter what your role is, to check that out. Thanks for the shout there.
Very cool. I love it, Tom. Man, you're an absolute rock star. Thank you for making the time. Safe travels to you as you travel all over the world this spring, man. Can't wait until our paths cross in person, man. And just thank you for everything that you do and for who you are, buddy.
Gotcha. Thank you, PC. Thanks for having me on. Thank you for the work that you do each and every day. For listening, have an incredible week. Go get it in 2023.
Thanks, dude. Tom Murray, awesome guy there. Again, another must follow on social media. He does so many amazing things for the world of education, and a great person to bring onto your campus for professional learning opportunities. And speaking of professional learning, I want to share with you right now one of the resources I want to make sure that you guys know is available through your partnership with Jostens and through Jostens Renaissance, which is The Green Room. The Green Room is a professional learning video series that I am honored to be the host of. We had the Harbor that Mike Smith created and that we absolutely love and made such a tremendous impact in the lives of students. And so we came up with this idea of what if we created the Harbor for educators? And so that's what the Green Room is all about. I've got a sizzle reel here to show you guys what the Green Room is all about.
Are you going to teach to a test, or are you going to teach to the heart? Nobody gets anywhere without a teacher. Nobody gets anywhere without education. It's never, I made it. It's always what's next. We're in the business of developing young leaders. If you don't tell your school story, someone else will. Each and every single day, we have the opportunity to make an immeasurable impact on tomorrow. At its core, SEL, it's seeing people, it's hearing people, and it's loving people. Every time that you pass someone on your school's campus, you're constructing your school's climate. And whether you're building it up or whether you're tearing it down, that's on you.
So again, that is the Green Room. It's available on jostensrenaissance.com. You can get that at absolutely no charge through your partnership with Jostens. We currently have 10 episodes that are available. We are in the process right now of editing 10 brand new episodes that will drop this spring. 5 of those will be for entire staff development, and then the other 5 are specifically for administrators for leadership development, whether you're a current administrator or whether you're an aspiring administrator. So again, you can find that on jostensrenaissance.com. Speaking of leadership development, one of my favorite leaders of all time is our next guest. I always say that if I had a Mount Rushmore of administrators that I know, she would undoubtedly be on it, and I'm super excited to welcome to the show right now Julie Diaz. Julie was an educator for many, many years. She's been a principal at every single level. And most importantly, I would have to say, Julie, is that you're also an Iowa Hawkeye. So go Hawks.
Woo, go Hawks. Go Hawks. Yeah, we had a good game yesterday, thank goodness, right?
Right. Yeah, of course, the defense outscores the offense as always. And I shared with you earlier, it was so cool. Of course, like big middle linebacker Jack Campbell, well, my nephew, who was 5 years old, his name was also Jack Campbell. And of course, my grandma graduated from Iowa. So the whole family are like, when the Hawks are on, we're watching because we know that grandma's watching too. And so it just somehow worked out. I think my mom made the connection with Big Jack's dad, and they were able to connect. And so Big Jack made a video for Little Jack that said, you know, you've got a really, really cool name. And then he sent him an autographed football. And then it just turned out that they were in the Music City Bowl in Nashville. And so my family got to go to the game and then got to meet him after the game. And just like what a great dude, man. Like that guy, it's just awesome.
That is awesome. I love the picture you sent. His smile was miles. Yeah, it was great. Really good.
Right. He said, "This is the best day of my life." And I was like, oh, how cool is that? That's
cool.
So awesome. Julie, you do and have done a ton of leadership work. You work with Into Learning now. From your perspective, what is leadership?
Oh, gosh. You know, I was thinking about that. And, you know, I think some of the greats really define leadership as influence. And I think it's more than that, because if you think about leaders in the past or now, you know, people that influence can influence good or bad, right? So I actually love Brene Brown's definition of leadership. She said, anyone who takes the responsibility for finding the potential in people and has the courage, that's really important, to develop that potential. And then I'm going to add, because I work in education still, in my opinion, in education, it's our absolutely responsibility as leaders to challenge the status quo, get demand change by getting people to think differently and do different. And that's what all of your speakers have been saying tonight. I mean, I've been taking down notes. It's amazing. Great people.
So when you talk about that and you talk about getting your people to think different and to dream different, from an administrator's perspective, how do you go about that? How do you plant some of those seeds because so many people as educators, and I was the same way for the longest time, you teach the way that you learn the best, right? Like this is what I did, this is what I experienced, so this is how it's supposed to be. I need to see things through that different lens. How can you plant some of those seeds?
You know, PC, I think it's who you surround yourself with too. And I think Hamish said that. I mean, he said a lot of the things I'm like, oh, I was going to say that. Oh, I was going to say that. But that's who we are, right? And I think to get people, you have to tell them, someone said one time to me that you put on your own ceilings, you know, like, let's take that ceiling off. And so when I was a principal, that's what I tried to do with my people. You know, why not? Why can't we do that? Instead of always saying no, we always like to say, go for the hard no or hard yes instead of the easy no. Because it's easy to say no to kids. to teachers, right? When they bring you this idea, well, why not? Let's try it, because guess what? You're going to learn things all along the way, whether you get it easily or not, but there's lessons all along the way. So I think that's how, with N2 Learning, thanks for the plug, by the way, that's what we do. We really work with them in transforming, not staying the same. Principals are sent to us and assistant principals, and let's get to think differently. I think Jetsons, all those things that the Jetsons did, like, this little watch was on the Jetsons. Who ever thought of that, right? We laughed about it, but that was in 1961. Think about that, all those things. And so to get people to think differently, that's how we're going to change education for our kids. Look at what Mike Smith's doing. Love it. I'm telling you, if I was in 100%. Nebraska, I'd go work for him.
I think I saw you in the chat box. You said open a school in Texas and you'll come back out of retirement, right?
Come out of retirement. 100%. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But I think it's critical to, you talked about a little bit about leadership development. It's critical to do that for your people, because people want to learn and they want to grow. And so many times in education right now, we're not focusing on that. We don't have enough money to do that. Honestly, you don't have enough money not to do that, to get your people ready. And leadership development isn't going to, meetings, how to fill out forms and how to do this and this. It's about the person and the individual, So, it's just so important.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So, knowing all that you know now, through all of the experiences that you've had, like I said, you've been at the elementary school level, the middle school level, the high school level. Yeah. Now you're in doing the training itself. If you could go back and talk to first year educator Julie Diaz, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh. I've been thinking about that first year. I'm glad I didn't know what I didn't know, honestly. Right. But I would go back and tell her, you know what? Know who you are, believe in yourself, learn from others, but find your own voice, right? Don't try to be like the person next door. You're never going to be that person. You've got to be the best you. Filter the noise. Hamish said that. Like, there's going to be noise. And that used to bother me when I was young. And, there's always going to be noise. The critic, that doesn't count. Find those people that believe in you. Don't surround yourself with yes people. Find those people that support you, believe in you, push you, challenge you, tell you no sometimes, and keep learning. Like, I'm not done, PC. Like, when you say we do leadership development and training, I don't feel like I'm training them. I'm providing an avenue. I facilitate learning is what I do. And don't take shortcuts. I mean, it's just don't. There are no such thing as shortcuts, right? And you're going to get knocked down, Julie. 23-year-old Julie moving from Iowa to Houston, Texas. You're going to get knocked down. The best educators get knocked down. But the difference between those great educators and those others, as Hamish said, you get back up, you ring the bell. So, yeah, that's what I would tell her. Keep going. Keep swimming.
100%. I love it. Julie, it's always an honor when I get the chance to connect with you. I'll be in Texas at some point this spring and hope to get to see you in person. Thank you for making the time.
And Dallas this summer. Dallas this summer, PC. Everything's bigger
right. How
in
cool
Texas.
Is that?
I love it. I love it.
Texas,
Happy New Year. And thanks so much for having me. Love it. Love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Love what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go Hawks. Thanks, Julie.
Go Hawks.
Julie Diaz, again, just one of the best administrators that I've ever been blessed with the opportunity to get to know and to spend time with. She's just absolutely incredible. And so if you ever get the chance to connect with Julie, highly, highly encourage you to do so. I promise you that you will walk away as a better person and a better educator as well. Okay, up next, our next guest is Jimmy Casas. Now, Jimmy is actually on a plane right now, so we had to meet earlier this morning to record our session, but he was so excited about being on the show, and he's like, can we just at least make a recording, because I really want to have the opportunity to spend some time with all these rock star educators. And so now we're getting ready to welcome Jimmy Casas. All right, guys. Hey, I am super, super excited now to welcome to the show Jimmy Casas. He is an educator, a speaker, an author, a consultant, works with schools like all the time, and just a tremendous, tremendous honor to have Jimmy here on the show. And so thank you, Jimmy, for making the time to be with us here on the PC and Friends event here today. And so just wanted to get this thing started. You're in schools literally all the time, right? And so you've seen anything and everything. And you know that when you walk into a school building, there's this vibe, right? There's a feeling, and it could be good, it could be bad, it could be somewhere in between. What are some commonalities, some things that you've seen that schools with positive, those great school cultures, what are some things that they all seem to have in common?
Yeah, it's a great point you make, PC. And I think that vibe you're talking about really is like even in the work I do today, when I walk into a school, the first thing I start doing, honestly, is just start watching people. I think watching people and listening to others speak and what they're talking about can tell you a lot about a culture of a school, right? Or any organization for that fact. I always believe that culture really is behavior. All you have to all you have to do is look at the behavior of the individuals in the organization, and it will tell you a lot about the culture, who they're interacting with. Are they calling people by name? Are they interacting with students? Are they engaging with their peers? Do they acknowledge each other as they walk down the hallways? All these types of things that can give you a kind of a quick vibe, right? Like when you walk into the main office, how do you feel? How do they greet you? Do they make you feel like the most important person? So all these things really play a huge part in a school environment. So behavior is, to me, the most important thing. And so that means it has to come around some group of values. What's the value system of the school? You know, you can walk into any school or look at any mission statement or vision statement. There are always these words about a school, right? School of excellence, school of empathy, school of inclusion, school of whatever it is, kindness, right? But then you look at the behavior of the people in the organization and something doesn't seem right. Like the words on the wall do not align with the behavior of the people in the organization. And I think that's dangerous, right? Because then what happens is we begin to lose credibility. The words just become words. They don't really mean anything. And so cultures that are excellent, right? Cultures that are healthy, cultures that have that vibe you're talking about are really intentional in living those values. And more importantly, they give permission to other people to hold them accountable to live those values. We all are susceptible on any given day to fall short of those values, right? Why? Because we have personal stuff going on in our lives. Things happen that impact and influence our attitude and our behavior and our morale and the way we feel about work that day. So it's really important if we can build this culture where really it is the foundation of relationships, and we hear this all the time. But to me, those relationships allow us to cultivate this trust in one another, to give permission to other people to help us be great. Because I don't believe there's any educator who doesn't want to be great at what they do. But there are moments where they fall short. They are not the same person anymore that they were when they sat in that interview chair. And that's because they have had these experiences, right? And these experiences begin to sometimes jade us a little bit and sometimes, cloud our judgment and how we see things and perceive things. So those are some of the most common things that I see when it comes to culture. And then when it comes to we have to remember that the most precious commodity in any school is our students, right? Obviously, our teachers are important, right? We know that. But I always was really honest that kids always came first, but that the teachers and the paras and all the support staff and anybody in the organization was just right there, just a little right bit behind them, right? That they too are really, really, really important to the organization. But how do we give our students and how do we give our staff, especially as school leaders, how do we give people a voice? And that's really important because when we give people a voice, we bring value to them. And when people don't feel valued and appreciated, well, the truth of the matter is it's going to impact your morale. So I think we have to be really intentional in setting up processes to give people a voice. But what does that look like? How do we do that? We can't just say, oh, yeah, I believe in student voice. I know, but how are we being intentional? What's the framework that we've established to make that happen? How often does it happen? And more importantly, what do we do with that voice? I mean, anybody can give anybody a voice at the table, right? But the truth of the matter is, if we don't do anything with that voice, once again, we hurt credibility, and therefore we hurt our overall morale and our culture of our organization. So those are some of the common things that I see. So those schools are really intentional in giving students and staff a voice. They don't just have student council. They have other forms of student leadership teams. They have teacher leadership teams, but that really feel valued and feel empowered, that they can actually make some decisions. They can be part of the process. They can be part of the resolution. And therefore, they feel empowered, right? It's that collective efficacy. And if we have processes in place to allow people to do that, then I believe people believe that they can make anything happen.
So true. You said so many just great things there. Again, like every educator, you get into it to make a difference, right? To make a positive impact on lives. But as you said, sometimes you get jaded and there's different experiences that happen. And sometimes you can kind of lose sight of that. And then the voice piece, but the voice without execution You're so spot on with that. We've got to empower people to have that influence and have the opportunity to have their voices actually heard on their campus. So that being said, there's an administrator watching this right now. There's a student council sponsor. Like the people that are attending this right now are here because they're the rock stars. They're the game changers on their campus. They're looking to make a positive change on their campus in terms of school culture. What are maybe 2 or 3 things that they could do to get that ball rolling in the right direction?
Yeah, again, I think one of the things when you talk about student council, PC, and first of all, let's not apologize for our student council, right? They do so many amazing things. They really work tremendously hard. They put in a bazillion hours. They really have really good intentions. They want to do a great job. They want to do these things. But the truth of the matter is, if you really examine student councils and our organizations, the problem is, at least in my experience, PC, is that over time it becomes the same kids over and over and over again, right? So that's one issue. How do we give a voice to all kids in a school? What if you have a school of 800, but your student council has 20 kids, right? And so what happens is it's the same kids doing most of the work. And so we're really not taking this to scale. And so that's what I mean about how do we create a student leadership team that really gives every student in the school a voice? So therefore, you need a process to make that happen, right? So schools have advisory, or they have homeroom, or they have some sort of 5th hour or win hour, whatever it is. That is a place where you can begin the process, but you have to be really intentional. In other words, how do you cultivate a group of leaders? How do you invite kids to lead with you? How do you partner with them to lead with you, right? How do you inspire kids to want to lead? So an example would be, PC, if you have 40 homerooms, well, you need at least 40 kids who can run and advise those homerooms. In other words, the kids, to me, should be leading those conversations. The adults should be there to offer support. The adults should be there to oversee. But it's really putting this process in place where students have the ability to go out to advisory, get some feedback on some sort of topics or themes. So I'll give you an example. You could get a feedback from kids and say, hey, so talk to us a little bit about our academics in our school. What's one thing you'd like to see different? What's one thing you'd like to change? What's one thing that isn't working for us? Let's talk about school policy. What are some of the rules that are impacting you that just don't make sense anymore? What are some things that we can do to re-examine that? Let's talk about facilities. I mean, facilities are such an important part of an overall culture. Kids want to have pride in their facilities. Do the bathrooms need updated, right? What should we do with these lockers that nobody's using anymore? What can we do with space in our school? I mean, all these things are part of facility. What about school culture and climate? What are some things we can do? Beyond just dances, right? What else can we do to really build a community? So imagine those 4 themes, and imagine going out and getting voice from every student. So we'd have kids going to advisory and saying, okay, if we could change one thing, okay, in our school policy, what would that one thing be? Imagine if every kid got an opportunity to write that down. Then we could have every classroom have a process where every classroom brings their recommendation, right? Every classroom brings that recommendation. And then as an organization, we sit down and look at all this stuff with students, with families, with staff, right? And really make change happen. Because once you can do that, then again, you create this momentum and inspiration where people think, oh my God, we actually can make these changes happen. Absolutely, we can, right? And so we really have to examine that. And so that's why I say it's really important to have a process. But that group of students you bring together, here's the key. It can't be elected. Because as soon as you elect, you have winners and losers, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should remove student council. It has its purpose, and we should have it. Kids need to understand the governmental process, the civics and responsibility, all that stuff is important. But we have kids, PC, walking the hallways right now that have all this leadership potential. And guess what? No place to use it because there's nothing in the school for them to do because they didn't make it. They didn't get elected. So let's be really intentional and bringing kids to school, put a plan in place, and let's work with our staff to really give kids a voice. But it has to come from the students. That's why I said this. The adults don't run the advisory. They're there to support, but we got to train the students. We have to be really intentional. What's the process we're going to use? And more importantly, when it's all said and done, how are we communicating to the students and staff the work that we're actually doing so they can see, oh my goodness, we just didn't do this. And then, well, whatever happened to that feedback they took from us like 3 months ago? right? So we have to be really intentional on how we communicate that progress as well.
I love that. Like, just such an awesome, we're talking about, again, the student voice and how do you expand that throughout your campus. Like, you're absolutely spot on. So somebody's watching this, Jimmy, and they want more information. They want to connect with you on, and I love your shirt, Recalibrate the Culture. How do they recalibrate the culture of their school? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way, obviously, is to go just to the website, because at jimmycasas.com, you can get resources, you can contact me, you can reach out, all the information's there. So that's probably the easiest way. If you're more on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, just Casas_Jimmy. And then, of course, people can just reach out to me through direct message or whatever, and I'll reach out to them and we'll connect. So, yep.
Awesome. Great stuff. Absolutely. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much again for making the time. We appreciate you being on the show, and safe travels as you go around the country and I'm sure probably the world this spring.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. So thank you, PC, for the opportunity. Truly grateful. Thank you.
How cool is that guy, man? Like, just a great speaker and so many great ideas and thoughts, specifically when it comes to student voice. I love how he talked about, if you have 40 advisory periods, then you need to have 40 student representatives, one from each of those, that has the opportunity to have input and to have voice. He has so many great ideas, and a great book called Culturize. If you're not familiar with Jimmy Casas, he's somebody definitely to follow and to connect with. And if you have the opportunity to bring him into your school, just a great person that you can bring in that can help take your school to the next level. All right, now, our next guest, this one is super special to me, and it's almost kind of a little bit surreal because it makes me feel old, and I don't want to be old, right? But I am super excited to have on the show now one of my former students. I knew her as Jenna Poole. She's since gotten married, and her name is now Jenna Calvert. She is a junior high teacher in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm super excited to welcome Jenna to the show now.
Hello, PC. How are you?
Hey, Jenna, how are you doing?
I'm good. Long time no see.
I'm so excited, right? Like, I obviously like social media stuff or whatever. And as I was putting together the lineup and everything, I was like, how cool would it be to have a former student that's now working in education? And I was just like, I'm calling Jenna. And so it worked out, and I'm just super excited and super proud of you. Let's talk a little bit about, you've been teaching now for a few years. What's something that maybe you've learned in those times in the classroom that you weren't necessarily prepared for prior to getting into the classroom?
One of those things that I was not prepared for, but I guess experience itself kind of prepared me for, would be how to truly accommodate for, and like you said, I'm a junior high teacher, so I have 130 students. So my first day, I walked into my classroom and I met 130 students, and I was supposed to accommodate for each individual one of them. So that was kind of stressful, and I didn't feel like I had the tools and the information that I needed at that time to really do that, and do it well for those students. But as time went on, those kids, they will tell you what they need from you. And it might not be that they tell you with their words, but they're going to show you some way or another how they need to learn and how they learn best. So again, I think that's just something I wasn't prepared for, but time itself has really taught me that.
So that being said, Jenna, if you could go back into your college prep classes where this is how to be a teacher, whatever, what advice would you give to somebody maybe right now? For example, I know Emily Beebe's on the show right now, and she's an aspiring educator. She's in college in Illinois and wants to be a teacher one day. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to somebody like
Emily? Knowing what I know now, and thinking about my coursework throughout college, I think that the biggest thing would be, because they preach build relationships. You won't be a successful teacher unless you build relationships, but nobody really ever tells you how to build those relationships. And I'm a pretty social person. I like to talk to people and get to know people. So that's pretty natural for me. But that's not natural for all of my students. They're not, social and outgoing like I am. Some of them are, but not all of them. So I would give any new teacher or aspiring teacher, I would give them the advice of find a couple of strategies that you can do to build relationships with your students that work for you. Just because they're in a teacher book or an educator book that people like to give teachers right when they start out, that doesn't mean it's going to work. Just because it works on paper does not mean it's going to work in your classroom. So I would tell them to come up with their own strategies and routines, and also to be okay with messing up. I'm still making mistakes, and I plan on making mistakes probably until I retire from this career, but it's okay to make mistakes. I was really hard on myself my first year, and I'm a perfectionist. I needed everything to be perfect, and when it wasn't, I freaked out, and that didn't get us anywhere. So I have adjusted since then, and now it's like, oh, something's not working today in the classroom. It's just like any other day. So again, that's just something you kind of learn as you go too.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's true in all aspects of life, right? Is that you can't be afraid of failure, right?
Right.
Because that's how you grow, and that's how you learn, and that's how you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So often, and even on this show somewhat, like we talk to veteran teachers and veteran educators, and we ask them what advice would they give to younger, newer teachers. We're going to flip the script on this one. And so as a newer, younger teacher, what advice would you give to veteran teachers?
My advice would be to not be scared to have fun and to be a little silly and crazy with your students. Sometimes, like, I'll be in my classroom doing something, playing a song, or we'll be doing something that if somebody just looked into my classroom, it might not look like there's a lot of instruction going on, but there is, you know. But just to be true to yourself, and if you are silly and outgoing, and just be that way in your classroom, because your students, if you are putting up a fake front and a mask, your students see straight through that. And they're not going to learn from somebody who they don't feel like they know or that they can trust. So to just be true to yourself, be yourself, let your personality shine through. Your students will appreciate that. Your students will more than likely be more willing to open up to you a little bit more if you're honest with them. And just being authentic and real with your students, I think is a big deal. And then just showing up for your students, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. Something that I started last year was I have a piece of paper in my room that it says, "What's your thing?" at the top. And students can come up to it at any time and they can fill it out. And if they have a church choir concert or something that's going on Sunday of that week, they can write it down. That way I have it in writing, because as educators, we have all the meetings and the times and the dates to remember. So if the kids don't write it down, I'll forget. So they write it down, and I make sure to try to catch at least a couple of those. Obviously, I have a life outside of school. I can't go to every single thing for all 130 students, but it is nice to see their faces when you show up at a soccer game or a dance recital or whatever it is. That just kind of shows them that you don't only have their back in the classroom, but you also have it outside of the classroom. And for some of those kids, they really need that. So that's another big thing, is to show up for your kids in the classroom and sometimes outside.
That's an absolute hammer. Like you're just like, you couldn't have said it any better right there, showing up. I think when you take the time out of your life to invest in others, especially those kids that are maybe not as fortunate as what some kids are, right? And it means the absolute world when they can look up into the stands or look out into the audience and then they see, hey, Miss Calvert came to the show, Miss Calvert came to the game. And then when you challenge them a little bit in class to do something that's outside of their comfort zone, they're going to be much more willing to go above and beyond for you. So absolutely just love that. And I also love like your reference to controlled chaos in your classroom, kind of like the virtual enterprise days back in our day at Portland, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Those were the days.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, Jenna, I am like beyond proud of you for who you are and what you're doing and the difference that you're making in the lives of young people. Thank you for making the time to be on the show. And I can't wait till I get to see you again in person. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Y'all have a happy new year. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jenna. How cool is that? Again, like I don't want to feel old, but I feel old right now. But it's like one of those super, super cool things when some of your former students come back into the world of education and just make that positive impact on other lives. I think that's a super, super cool thing. So huge shout out there to Jenna for being a part of the show here tonight. Now, let's see what we've got for you next year. This next poll question is coming in this one is from Marnie Haid at Northwest High School in Jackson, Michigan. Another absolute rock star educator. She is a yearbook advisor and does so many unbelievable things there for the culture and climate. Here is her poll question. What goes on the bread first, peanut butter or jelly? And so your options are peanut butter all day, jelly, of course, or neither. Give me a big greasy cheeseburger. I am in the neither category. I'll take a big greasy cheeseburger before I'll take the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But that's just me. So we'll give you here a couple of seconds to answer that one, and then we'll share our poll results here coming up here in just a second. About 3 more seconds on that one as the votes are rolling in. And here we go. Let's share these results. 75% of you said the peanut butter goes on first. Only 5% put the jelly on first, and then 19%, y'all are with me. We're going out somewhere, and we're going to have a big greasy cheeseburger. So there you go. Thank you to Marnie from Northwest High School in Jackson, Michigan, again, for the poll question there. Now, next guest. Talk about ideas, talk about positivity, talk about inspiration. I've had the opportunity to do a number of events with him in the past, and I look forward to doing more with him in the future. He is always one of the biggest attractions at the Jocelyn's Renaissance Global Conference. Super excited to welcome to the show right now my good friend, Stand Tall Steve Bollar. Steve, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Boom. Hey, I am good, brother. How are you, man? This is it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got to ask you first, most importantly, is what was on the grill over the holidays? Let me rephrase that. What was on the grills? Because you have like 12, I think.
Yeah,
what was on the grills over the holidays? Yeah. What was on there?
I did prime rib and then holiday ham for Christmas. So just the 2 things on there, and then all the sides. Obviously, I put all the sides in the grill, get that smoky flavor and everything. Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah,
I love it, dude. I love it. I always love all the pictures and the live posts and all that good stuff, man. It's great stuff. Let's talk about some ideas. We talked earlier with some of the other guests about staff morale. Let's get a couple of ideas here. What are some things that schools can do to help to lift that morale of the educators on the campus?
Hey, man, there's so many different things that you could do. Here's the number one thing that I want everybody to understand. A lot of times we start off with great ideas at the beginning of the school year. We start off in August, maybe September, whenever you start your school year, you have this great brainstorm. We're like, all right, we're kicking off the year with all these ideas. And then come February, we're like, are we still doing that? What's happening? What do we, right? Here's the thing, gang. You could do a new idea in January. You could do a new idea in February. You could do a new idea at any time. So don't think that it's only one moment in time that you can start a new idea. You can start it at any time. We also have this understanding in January, a lot of us like to start things off. Here's the thing. If your school doesn't have a theme yet, start a theme in January. Why not? Start a theme in January. You know, it's all about me in 2023. Come up with something, all right? You can start a theme in January because a theme is a great way that you can wrap people all around a common idea, a common understanding. Here's the thing. If your whole school doesn't do the theme thing, or maybe you already have a theme, maybe you're a teacher in your individual classroom, get a theme just for your classroom. There's nothing wrong with that. The moment the kids walk through the threshold of your door, you can come up with a brand new theme. You can have a new concept, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things. It's totally a possible thing that you can do that, all right? There's also a lot of things that you can have, you know, getting people on the calendar. What's the best? You can have different things that you can look at your calendar and really plot out the different things that you want to do. A lot of times we come up with ideas, we come up with things that we want to do, and we don't take the time to really sit down, plot it out for the rest of the year. If that's too much for you, just do the month. Plot out the month, all right? Month by month, week by week. Just like you do your other plans, you can do those fun, creative ideas where you're connecting with people. Here's another great one. It's something I call the 7-week staff-to-student relationship challenge, all right? 7-week staff-to-student relationship challenge, all right? I came up with this one about last year. It's 7 weeks of coming up with a different idea each week that the staff is going to do to the students. Now, you don't tell the students you're doing this. You just start doing it, and you watch what happens. I know you just have Jenna, your former student that was on here. She was talking about how nobody tells you how to develop those relationships with kids. These are the jumping off points to come up with ideas, the relationship with kids, all right? So first week, what you're going to do, all right, is, what are we doing for the first week? I got tons of these little ideas. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Oh, okay. what you're going to do is smile. Let's do this one. Let's do the smile. Eye contact and smile. So for 1 week, you're going to find 3 kids during the week. It doesn't matter. Just at any time during the week, find 3 kids, make eye contact with them, and then give them a smile. That's it. That's all you're going to do. Because kids don't make eye contact like they used to. And they're going to look at you like, oh, what? Hey, they're going to smile back or something. Now, don't do the creepy smile. Just give a nice little smile. And if they ask you why you're smiling, you just say, nothing. You just make me smile. That's all you got to do, right? Next week, you're going to find 3 kids that you don't know, find their name, figure out what their name is, and then call them by their name. That's all you're going to do the next week. Find 3 kids. You have a kid, you see him in the hallway. Hey, come here. What's your name? Tariq? Hey, Tariq. My name's Mr. Bollar. How are you? All right. And then they go on about their business. Next time you see Tariq, my man, what's up? Now you started a dialogue with them a little bit, right? The next week, you say something nice about their sneakers, all right? Pick 3 kids during the week. Hey, I like your shoes you got there. Man, those are some nice Crocs. Wish I could wear some Crocs, 3 kids, that's all you're going to do for that next week. The following week, do a high five fist bump with some kids, right? The following week, get a little sign that you can write something on the sign of the door and then stand in the hallway that says, good morning, how you doing, welcome. Stand in the hallway and showcase them, right? So all these little tiny things, every single one of them, how much do they cost, PC? Any one of these things, how much they cost?
Free.
They don't cost a penny. Doing these little tiny things, it opens up the possibility and the availability of you being able to connect with a student. That's how you develop those relationships. It opens the door and the possibility. A lot of times people don't have conversation starters. These are all conversation starters to get to know other people or kids. Last little thing that I'm going to throw at you is the State of the Union address. All right. I got this one from Dwight Carter also talked to me about this one. He did this when he was the building principal. At certain times of the year, bring everybody together. This is more for your administrators that are out there. All right. It's the state of the whatever your mascot is address. Like my school, we were the Hounds. So I called it the State of the Hound address. We get everybody together and you talk to them about the vision, the mission, the goals of the school, what cool things are coming up yet. What the great expectations are. Show them a little bit of data. It doesn't have to be a snore fest. It doesn't have to be boring, but give them something and give a little motivation in there. Have the band kind of play people into the State of the Union address where someone's addressing everyone and talking about the great things that are happening that are coming up to get them revved up. Midway through the year, January, February is a wonderful time to do this. The State of the Campus address, the State of the Mustang address, the State of the Cougar address, the State of the Tiger address, whatever it is, those are some things. What do you think, man? Are those some good ideas? What do you got, man? Want some more? What do you got?
I love it. If we had more time, I know we could keep going like forever on these things, right? And that 7-week challenge, I absolutely just love that. And so I'll get that QR code from you and I'll send it out in the post-conference email so that we can share that with everybody that's tuning in here, because it's so simple, but what an impact, right? And it's just the little things that make all the difference, right? Makes all the difference in the world. We're going to transition. We're going to transition, but I want you to help me with this transition. And so in the chat box right now, what I want to hear, and one of my favorite bits when Steve is speaking is when you do the dad jokes, right? Because you talk about the morning announcements and you do the dad jokes. Right?
Yes, I love it.
So in the chat box right now, I want the participants to put in their best dad joke, and I'll compile these into a list and I'll send them out. But Steve, I would love for you to share some of your favorite dad jokes as they're putting theirs in the chat box here.
Oh man, some of my best dad jokes. How does the crazy person get through the forest? He takes the psychopath. There you go. What did a lightning bug say when he got stepped on? He says, "I'm delighted." How much did the pirate pay to get his ears pierced? A buccaneer, right? There you go. And what's one more? Where did the snowman keep their money? In the snowbank, right? There you go. Boom, boom, boom. Funny. I love the dad jokes, the goofy stuff, man.
Oh, I love it too. It cracks me up every time when you tell them, and I just like, it just kills me. And so for reference, again, when Steve was an administrator, he would tell one of those dad jokes on the morning announcements, just as a way to get the day started on a goofy, funny note. And again, you're setting the tone and you're making yourself a real person.
Yes, that's what it's all about. You're right. Morning announcements, say a joke of the day every morning. And if you're not good at telling a joke, that makes it even better, right? I mean, everybody will moan like, oh, God, why does this person keep saying jokes? Keep it going. It will be something that they will laugh about and joke about. In your classroom, when the kids come in, start the class off with a joke. There's nothing wrong with that. After a while, they're going to come in and say, hey, I got a riddle as well. Just make sure it's a clean one. But make sure that it gets that culture and climate. Climate is how you feel in the classroom. Culture are the routines that you do in the classroom, right? Culture, set up the culture throughout the classroom of those fun opportunities. And then your climate, the environment will be positive. And when the environment is better, people also perform better. That's how it works.
I love it, dude. Steve, thanks as always for being on the show. I love you. I think the absolute world of you. Thank you for everything that you do, pouring into educators and pouring into student leaders. And I'll see you soon this spring, man.
There you go. I love it. You too, man. Can't wait. Talk to you.
Thanks, dude. Stand Tall Steve, again, another guy. If you don't follow him on social media, he has a number of books and ideas book. He's got an ideas book with Tina Dietrich on rallies. He's got a leadership book. He has so many incredible resources that he provides. And again, I'll put the QR code to that 7-week culture challenge. Super easy, it's like you can literally do it from day one of the semester when you go back to school. And I promise you, it will make an impact, a positive impact on your campus here this spring and from that point forward. Now, jumping from Steve to another one of my mentors and a person that has made just a tremendous impact on my life. It's my honor right now to welcome to the show Dr. Keith Bell, who works at the Ohio State University. Keith, how you doing tonight?
I was doing better until last night.
Oh my gosh, like the poor kid, the kicker, like I hate it when it comes down to those situations because he's either going to be a hero or he's going to be the GOAT. And people are so just brash these days. And so the things that kid's going to have to hear and listen to, and that's a moment that he's never going to forget, right?
Well, he can, Phil, he can blame all of that on his defense, because if you give up 18 points in the fourth quarter, you don't deserve to win. So he can blame all of that. He can blame all of that on his defense. And all my Columbus people know that. I mean, you don't give up 18 points in the fourth quarter and expect to win the game. It doesn't happen.
Right.
So you can't put that all on the kicker. So,
yeah, but if you didn't have a dog in the hunt, it was a great game both of those games were great games, and so many points scored and all that good stuff. But I knew when I saw it, I was like, man, Keith and Dwight are going to be upset when they come on the show tomorrow.
No, we're good, and the Ohio State kids are really some good kids, and they'll recover. It's all about the process, so they'll be all right.
Oh, absolutely. And the adversity, you learn so many things through sports and through athletics. And as I was talking to Jenna and to Michael about earlier, through failure, like that's how you learn and that's how you grow. Keith, absolutely. I want to talk to you a little bit about one of the things I always talk about is inspire the hopeless, empower the dreamers. And you were doing an unbelievably cool project, and you started it during COVID with a group of students. Talk about that project, what it's all about, and the impact that it's made.
Yeah, and I did a little bit with the TED Talk this past summer, and thanks for having me on the show. But this all started from some work that we had done when I was superintendent in Cleveland. And, every adult will put programs together, but they very seldom look at the individuals that they impact the most, which are the students, and try to put something together for them. So when we were developing our strategic plan when I was superintendent, I said, we had the EMIS coordinators coming together. We had the assistant principals coming together once a month. We had the curriculum directors. We had all these adults. And I said, well, what about the kids? Why can't we bring the kids together with the 17 districts that we had? So we put that in our strategic plan in Cleveland to bring students together. We didn't know how to do it, but we just thought that was something that was important. So then I left, started working with DSC, and then went to Ohio State. We did that the last 2 years. We brought kids together and put them together in a leadership research institute in Cleveland. It's called the First Ring Student Leadership Institute. And we did that for 2 years prior to the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and I came up with this brilliant idea that I thought it would be a good idea to start this project in Columbus. And everybody looked at me like I was nuts in the middle of the pandemic. And the energy for it came from when students were protesting with George Floyd and all of the social justice issues that were occurring. I went up to several students and I asked them, I said, you all are protesting, you all are looking at social justice. I get that. I'm an adult here that wants to help you. Tell me what you want me to do to help you. And I couldn't get one answer from one kid about anything specific that they wanted me to do. And so at that point, I said, this is a perfect teaching opportunity. So what I did then is I proposed to the University and the College of Education and Human Ecology. I went to the Educational Service Center. I got people together and I said, I think we can do something. And what I wanted to do was to impact leadership, research, and advocacy. Teach them about leadership, teach them about how to become an informed, educated advocate, and teach them about how to have data. I am about this data to support whatever it is that you're going to do so that you have some evidence. So that's the three components of what it was. So we start in the middle of pandemic. Everything is virtual to start with. And we had, I think it was 85 students that were involved. At the end of the year, we had 85 students involved. And in Central Ohio, during the pandemic, the chronic absence rate was 46%. That meant that 54% of the students were not coming to school. And during our collaborative that was virtual, we had almost 100% attendance. And the difference was, as I mentioned this summer, was the difference between education and learning and getting a grade. Kids didn't care about a grade. They wanted to learn. And that's what this was all about. And they wanted to be heard. I've said this over and over again. When kids are small and they're babies, we can't wait to get them to talk. We want them to say, Mama, Dad, we want them to do all of that. And then they get into school and we tell them to sit down and shut up. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to talk because they did not have an opportunity during the pandemic to talk to anybody and to really get things out. So that's what we started. And fast forward, what's happened since then is now we started with 85. We just brought 352 kids together at the Fawcett Center in Columbus at Ohio State on October 28th. Dwight Carter's group is involved with that. And being able to teach them about leadership, advocacy, and research. We have great speakers, but the idea is to give students an opportunity to talk about changing things in their school. So the way it works is they identify an issue in their school, they do research on that particular issue, and then they come back and they do a capstone and a poster presentation on that particular subject in front of superintendents and principals and school personnel. And if we had more time, I can give you all of the impact that's happened. And I know Dwight will probably talk a little bit about it, the impact that's happened in the schools where kids have gone back and presented to boards of education and gotten real change to occur in their schools. And most of this change is revolving around mental health issues that students or teachers and administrators really don't have the bandwidth to handle. And kids are addressing that. And I want to just give you two real quick examples. One was that kids did some research and these kids presented they were the first high school team to ever present at at Ohio State University Quantitative Methodologies Conference. And they presented research. They did research on teacher mental health. So dealing with what teachers were feeling about their jobs during the middle of the pandemic. And they brought the data to Ohio State and they showed them that 77% of the teachers in this particular school district were considering leaving the profession. And all of that had to do with the fact that they did not feel appreciated or supported during the pandemic. And when the superintendent got that, they have made some real changes back at their school based off of student data. And that's just one example. The second one is where another school district, kids did not want to go to the counselor to deal with their mental health concerns. They had concerns, but they didn't want to go to the administration. So the kids did research on it. And they found out that real simple, the reason they didn't want to go is because the window where the counselor's office was clear and all the students in the hallway could see them in there. Real simple, but they never figured that out. The kids figured it out. And so they've done that. The last example I want to give you is students at one of the other school districts determined that they needed to learn about their financial health. They needed to learn about really about how to be an adult, how to how to be able to, if they're going to live in an apartment, what that was like, stock market, all that kind of stuff, and they called it adulting. They went back to their school district, presented to the board. They had 550 petition signatures for this course, and they challenged the school board, and the school board had to develop, when they made their presentation, look at hiring staff members to now identify and now create a new course called adulting, where they can actually learn these things. And this is all coming from students. So this particular project for me has been something that has helped students have a voice and be able to make positive change, not negative change. Even though some of the things may be tough to hear, but they are learning how to make positive change in their school. They're learning about research. And then last but not least, we have great leadership speakers. We've had Clark Kellogg. We've had Olympic gold medalist Butch Reynolds. We had Aaron Gruhl, who was one of our speakers. Jim Clemens, who's won 10 NBA championship rings. Warren Moon, who's the only African-American quarterback that's been in the NFL and the CFL Hall of Fame. We've had great speakers for them to hear from. So I wanted to make sure that whatever we did, it was from the highest level possible. And we've gotten great results. We now have a partnership with Southeast Ohio, and we'll be working with the schools in Southeast Ohio. We've got a pilot. We also have now middle schools that are involved. And it's been a great opportunity for us to showcase student voice and student change. And really what I've all known about students for a long time, how intelligent they really are. And so that's really what this is all about.
I love it, Keith. Just awesome, amazing work. And again, like inspire the hopeless, empower the dreamers. Like that's exactly what you're doing now is exactly what you've done your entire career with so many people, myself included. I'm just grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful for everything that you do and for who you are and just the guidance and the mentorship that you provide to so many people. I know Dwight earlier in the chat called you the Godfather. And I just think like it's so fitting. You have so much wisdom and you've given so much to the world of education. Thank you so much for making the time to be on the show here tonight. And I look forward to when I get to see you in person again, buddy.
Hey, PC, I just want to just say thank you for all of that, but I also want to share, I'm in Toledo and I'm with my parents. My mother is 89, my father is 90. They're both listening to this. So I appreciate that. And I'm just blessed to have them here. And they are my mentors. So I just wanted to give them a shout out to all of you because they're the reason I'm doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Well, they should be very proud of the son that they raised. That's for sure.
And they did a great job. They kicked my tail, but they did a great job.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Somebody's got to do it.
That's right. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate you, man. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Dr. Keith Bell, again, just the wisdom and the knowledge and just an unbelievable guy there. Again, a person that changed my life the first time that I got to hear him speak. Obviously, he's a big Ohio State guy, and they will not be playing in the national championship game. But what I want to know is who do you think is going to win the national championship game coming up? TCU, you got Georgia, or you have no clue about football, but you do love Ted Lasso. So we'll see what the results say here on this one here. It's always cool to see the underdog perform well and to play well from TCU, but my dad's a huge Georgia fan, so I'll have to be cheering for the Bulldogs on that day. We'll leave this one up here for a couple of more seconds. And let's see what the results say. The vast majority of you, 53%, say Georgia. 32% are going with the Horned Frogs. And then 15% of you say, I've got no clue, but I do love Ted Lasso, and I love Ted Lasso as well. All right, our next guest. I had the opportunity to hear this guy speak a year ago in January at our company's Jostens annual business meeting. And then I was just like, absolutely fell in love. And I was like, this guy has got to come to the Jostens Renaissance Global Conference. And so we were honored to have him as the opening keynote speaker. When we talk about unbelievable human beings, this is just another one to add to the list. And I'm super excited right now to welcome to the show, John Paul Gonzalez. John Paul, what's happening, buddy?
Not much, man. How you doing? What's going on, PC?
I'm doing great. I gotta change my hat here real quick and get ready for
there we go.
You here. I got my beanie here, my New York Giants. Big win today over the Colts. And for people that don't know, you do a lot of work with the Giants. Talk about that relationship and what exactly your role is with the New York Giants.
Yeah, man, big win. So happy for every single guy in that locker room, every single staff member, everybody. It was an awesome feeling being on the sidelines today and just getting to see all the adversity and all the difficulty in the past couple of years. I've been with the team for 7 years. My official role is team chaplain and also work on the health and wellness committee. Basically, what that means is, same thing we do mental health in schools is we check up on a lot of guys, especially when they get injured. A lot of the guys, when they rehab after they get injured, they're not around the team. And, so many times we care about the physical, but let's be honest, it's really all about the mental. And so it's an awesome opportunity to really, just be able to reach out, especially when you're down, especially, last year of a contract, you can have a lot of, destructive thoughts go through your head that maybe don't show up on an x-ray, don't show up on an MRI, like a lot of the students we love and we care about are, and it's really getting to the heart, just like you guys were talking about before. So, it's been a privilege and a pleasure. Sometimes it's not always easy, but I like what our coach said. He has this, our new coach, Coach Dable from Buffalo. He has this saying, and I really enjoy it. It's that good teams are committed, to winning, but great teams are committed to each other. And, I'll be the first one to say, you look around the NFL, we don't have the, the flashiest Pro Bowlers, Steve down in Philly, they have the most Pro Bowlers that got voted this year. But I would say the commitment to each other and the love for each other in the locker room that shows with how they hang out together when they're off the field is really, really cool to see.
That's awesome, man. Those connections, that bond, and that's something like that's irreplaceable, right? And just so true. And what a special, what a fun thing for you to get to be a part of and get to witness. I just think that's so awesome. And so let's transition now into, you're an educator, right? You work with kids, you love kids, you work in a classroom, and then that turned into, you've started this school to give back with providing hope and future. Talk about your school, talk about the opportunities that you provide to these young people.
Yeah, so, it really came about, it's so cool just getting to listen to Mike earlier. And, it really kind of came about with that idea. I didn't go into any of it thinking it was going to evolve into there. But, when your heart is directed at people and not just products or profit, it's amazing how far you'll go. It's amazing the things you'll do, when it's about people. And so just, when I was finishing my administrator's degree, I really wanted to find out why a lot of our students weren't making that transition well into high school. Why, when I first, ninth grade world history, but I also got put in charge of a freshman seminar program. And a lot of them weren't transitioning well. And it's one of the most crucial transitions. And a lot of it was after school programming. And how can we meet that bridge and bridge that gap? So, by God's grace, we're able to start with 5 kids. And now we're a little over 3,000 students that are part of just a program called the Hope and Future Center. And it's a place where they can come, health and wellness is kind of the hook, knowing that we tried the leadership program thing, leadership class after school, we got maybe 2 kids, but you put up flyers that say you want to jump higher, run faster, get stronger. You had 200 kids lined up outside, my classroom down the hallway. And so it was just like you were saying before with a lot of your panelists, what do they care about? What do they love? I remember I was speaking for the Accenture, the consulting company, and I love what their CEO said. He said, we must never fall in love with our solutions more than the problems of our clients. And I took that, as, in education, we must never fall in love with, our solutions as adults more than, hey, what are the real problems happening in our communities with our students and their families? And so we're able to start this place where, kids could come from all over New York City, New Jersey, and really be a family. My greatest, I'd say, measure of success is we have a whole bunch of couches and, a basketball court and, all these places they can get tutoring, a whole coffee bar where they're learning to be baristas, which I love. But I would say the greatest success is when I see one of them take a nap on the couches. Because, it's got to be that Maslow's hierarchy of needs has to come before Bloom's, right? And it's when they take a nap on the couch, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, man, then we know we can get somewhere on all those other areas of their life. We can teach them the algebra. We can teach them, the college application. We can teach them the career and education technical department. But it's really establishing that place where they call home, which is really cool.
I love that, man. It's such awesome work. And just to be able to give back and to provide those opportunities to kids that, a lot of times they just don't have them, not for any reason, no fault of their own. I call it the parent lottery, right? And some of us are fortunate and some of us aren't. And what you're doing, it's so important and so impactful. John Paul, give me 60 seconds here in closing out with you. Why do you teach?
Man, I teach because, I love that light bulb moment. I think I'm still addicted to that light bulb moment. You know, when they realize they can do it for themselves, when they realize, you know, hey, I am worth something. Hey, I do have value. Hey, I don't have to repeat the same mistakes my father made, right? My mother made, you know. And when you see that light bulb moment, there's no check that goes in a bank account. There's, you know, having played professional basketball, there's no win. There's no stat line. You know, don't get me wrong. It's going to be great to be in the NFL playoffs for the first time in 7 years with the team, but you know, that pales in comparison to that light bulb moment, which all of us on this call know we will. And I don't mean to use this literally, but we'll die for it, right? And sometimes we'll put ourselves in harm's way, literally, to die for that one kid in the back of the room to get it. And it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the day. Our car could break down, right? Like whatever. Our food could be cold, but we still remember, man. My man, he got it.
And that's what it's all about, man. John Paul, I am just beyond honored that like our paths crossed this time last year, you know, and I'm super excited. I know we have some big news that's coming out about some things that you and I are going to get to do together here this upcoming school year, man. And I just can't wait to have the opportunity to spend more time with you in person and just to get to see the impact that you make on so many lives in person as well. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for making the time to be on the show here today. I know it's been a busy day for you with the game and everything.
Yeah, PC, it's been a pleasure. And like I said, I'm sorry about your Titans. I don't think y'all are going to make it. Sorry about your Broncos. But hey, we could use the support. We're either playing in Minnesota or San Fran in 2 weeks. We'll use the support. Don't become an Eagles fan. Don't listen to Steve, all right?
I hear you. I got you. All right, dude. Hey, John Paul, thank you, man. I'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, sounds great, brother.
Thanks, dude. John Paul Gonzalez, guys, if you're not familiar with that guy and you're looking for somebody to speak and to come to your campus, like that one is a no-brainer. His whole message around being all in, like I promise you, your kids are going to love it. Your staff is going to love it. He is just a phenomenal human being with a heart of gold, and he is an educator himself. And to me, like that just makes a huge difference because he can speak the speak because he's walked the walk, right? Just a great guy. And again, if you're not connected with him, highly encourage you to do so. Now, we're going to bring back in Bradley Skinner, DJ Phony Stark for our last dance break. You've got about 90 seconds. If you need to refill a drink, stand up, shake it around, whatever it is you want to do. And then we're going to close this thing out. We're in the home stretch. So right now, Bradley, you're going to take it away, buddy.
Told them your dreams and they all started laughing. I guess you're out of your mind till it actually happens. I'm the small town, 1 in 7 million. Why can't it be me? You told me I was out there, tried to knock me down. Took those sticks and stones, showed them I could build a house. They tell me that I'm crazy, but I'll never let them change me. So they cover me in daisies, daisies, daisies. They said I'm going nowhere, trying to cut me out. Took those sticks and stones, showed them I could build a house. They tell me that I'm crazy, but I'll never let them change me. So they cover me in daisies, daisies, daisies. Those daisies, showed them I could 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 daisies. They said I'm going nowhere, trying to cut me out. Took those sticks and stones, showed them I could build a house. They tell me that.
All right, another huge shout out to Bradley Skinner, DJ Phony Stark. If you need help with some songs or playlists, things for your rally that you have going on at your school, reach out and connect with him. He is unbelievable at putting mixes together. I use him every single time that I speak. He's made mixes for me. Obviously, he's been the official DJ of PC and Friends for 3 years running now. And in addition to that, he's also a phenomenal educator. He was the 2019 Wyoming State Theater Teacher of the Year. They do like 7 productions every school, like literally 7. He writes some of them himself. Just a phenomenal educator, phenomenal human being, and obviously does great stuff with the DJ work as well. So reach out and connect with him. He's a great dude, and he loves to help. All right, we are in the home stretch. We've got 3 guests left here on the show. This next one, rock star, educator, just like energy, passion, heart, like all the things. Dr. Farah Ortega-Choate, she's a middle school educator out in Southern California area, and I'm super excited to welcome her to the show. Farah, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to be here. You know, when I looked at this lineup, I'm fangirling, but I think a lot of it is because I love these humans. These are some of the best people I have ever had the opportunity to meet. And I think that's why I'm so excited to be here, to be part of it, but it's to learn. I just attended last month the AVID conference, National AVID conference in Dallas, Texas. And Dr. Manny Scott, one of the original Freedom Writers, made a comment. He said, if you stop learning today, you should stop teaching tomorrow. And I love that because this is why we're all here. This is why we chose on a day off to show up, because we are learning from one another. And so I thank you, PC, for bringing us together so we could learn and grow and be better.
It's so true, and it's so powerful, and it's so fun for me getting to watch your journey, because I can remember the very first time we met, and it was Mike Smith and I out in an event in California, and you came up afterwards, and you're just so excited, and you're talking, and I was like, this lady gets it, right? And so now, in addition to teaching, you're doing some speaking as well, and you're actually going to get to keynote CATA this spring, and I saw that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like how awesome is that? So congratulations to you for that. Like what a cool, like that's going to, like, I'm going to have goosebumps for you.
Thank you so much. And you know, I'm so excited to be able to be the keynote, because I have sat in the audience as an activities director, as an educator, and watched all of these amazing speakers over the years. And it is huge for me, because 1, to be a female on that stage, 2, to be a Latina representing our community. It's going to be in San Diego, California. The theme is Ven a mi casa, and it is so important. We talk so much about representation, but a lot of times we're not ready for it. And so it's happening. I am a proud Latina educator on that stage in my own state, teaching and hopefully inspiring people from my community and many others. And it's such an honor. And I just have to give a shout out to my tribe of speakers. There has not been one person that is trying to claw their way to the top. Every single person, whether it's you or Mike Smith or Phil Boyte, whoever it is, God, there's so many. And it's because they want to see me succeed. They know I have a story. They know I have a purpose. And I know you've asked people, what is their purpose? And mine is to inspire and to empower our youth and educators to make this world a better place. And I'm glad that I have the platform. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak today.
It's such an honor. Like I said, and it's a blessing to be able to call you a friend, Farah. You're one of the best teachers that I know. And I think one of the parts that makes you one of those best teachers is your ability to establish and to cultivate relationships. We were talking to Jenna earlier, and it was so true. And she talked, like everybody says, relationships, but how? And so from your perspective, knowing all the things that you know now, how do you establish and cultivate those relationships?
You know, it's interesting. The school that I'm at La Quinta Middle School STEM Academy in SoCal. And there's a brand new AVID teacher that I have the opportunity to work with. And as a brand new teacher, I'm in my 22nd year of teaching. And, you know, when we first start out, we're so worried about, does the room look perfect? Do we have the right borders on the walls? What's the exact curriculum that we're teaching? Are we on the right page at the right time? And I think I've learned over the years that it begins and ends and everything in between is relationships. It is so important that if something's not going right in your classroom, it's probably because you have to take a step back and continue to build those relationships. There was a quote that I just came across, and it said, this is from Dr. James Comer, and he says, no significant learning takes place without significant relationships. So if you want to catch those kids, if you want to re-inspire those educators, you have to build those relationships. And I firmly believe that those relationships actually start with yourself. I think we talked, and I know other people have mentioned that on this call, that we don't take the time to put ourselves first. And so we need to make sure that we pencil in time for ourselves, whether it's a date with your girlfriend so you can go out, or it's hitting the gym or meditating or whatever it is, but it's building that relationship with yourself, building it with your coworkers. Do you know who's actually teaching next door to you, or do you just see them in the staff meeting, right? Do we really know the person next door? Because that's another human being that hopefully has the same goals as you, which is to create wonderful human beings that are in our classrooms. Do you build relationships with your community? Is it a place that you just drive through to get to and from work? Or do you actually know the people that are in your community, and are you utilizing them in your classroom? And then last, but certainly not least, those relationships with your students. Another quote that I just recently came across, it said that there is student voice, but it's whether or not we're choosing to listen to it. They have voices. We see it on social media, but are we really allowing our kids to have a voice and to co-create with you in the classroom? I know for me, one of the most recent project that my students did in my class, it was called My Seat at the Table. And those students in my classroom, it was beautiful. You should see what they came up with. It was pretty much like a mini TED Talk, and they got a table and a chair at the front of the room, and they had 3 minutes to talk about whatever they wanted, whatever they were passionate about. And in those 3 minutes, I get teary-eyed because to see what my students, my heroes, were coming up with. We had one young man talk about domestic violence, and that's how he lost his mother. We had students talking about their connection with music and how it helps to heal. I mean, just where these kids were coming from. But it's because I was able to step back and not be on that stage and allow them to have the spotlight, to have their voice, so that they could share with us what they are passionate about.
I love that so much. I think that's a huge key. I know for me, it was a huge key in my evolution as an educator, was learning to become more of the facilitator versus the instructor, right? How can I guide them towards success as opposed to telling them, hey, this is what success, this is how you're going to be successful, right? I just absolutely love that. Like, what an awesome, awesome project. Farah, last question I want to ask you about, besides obviously getting the keynote kata, what are you excited about for 2023?
Oh, goodness, there's so much. I will say one thing. Well, there's a couple. One, we have a new principal at our school. She's actually on this call, and it's someone who I have wanted to work with for so long. So Kristen Wood, thank you for logging on, for supporting me. There were some moments where I've thought about leaving the classroom myself. And a lot of times it's some of the negativity we see on campus, never the kids. And so she is I think that shot in the arm that I needed to know that somebody else asked me, they said, aren't you ready to go on? Because we were looking at a position at the district office where I would be the coordinator of school climate and culture for our entire district, which is exciting. I've had offers to go speak full time. And so someone said, Farah, you're too small for the school. Like, go, there's something else waiting for you. Why do you choose to stay? And I said, because I'm not finished. I feel like I need to be teamed up with an administrator we can create the best school on the planet. And I just need someone to give me that opportunity to work with me and our amazing students. And that's what it is. I'm so excited. So for where I'm at right now, I'm working on my book with Road to Awesome with Darren. And I'm going to be speaking and I'm going to be teaching. So I'm going to figure out how to juggle all of it and make this world a better place.
I love it. And I have no doubt that you will. And huge shout out to Kristen for being that rock star administrator. And I'm sure if you haven't heard it yet, you will hear it when you get out there on the road. I hear it every day from educators and from students. Well, my administrator would never go for that. My administrator would never let us do that, right? And it makes all the difference in the world when you have an administrator that gets it. And I don't need you to do everything. I just need you to say yes and then get out of my way and let me run, right? Let the Farahs of the world run. Let the rock stars run. And so huge shout out to you, Kristen, for being on the call tonight and for supporting Farah and just being that rock star administrator. Farah, you know that I love you and I think the absolute world of you. I am so proud of you and I'm proud to be your friend. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everything that you do in education. And if I don't see you before, I will definitely see you when you're on that big stage in San Diego here in a couple of months.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Take care.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Farah Ortega-Choate, just absolute rock star educator. another person that if you ever had the chance to sit down and just have a cup of coffee and just spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, just talking about education, just talking about life and just talking about the world, I guarantee you that you're going to walk away as a better person again and as a better educator as well. Okay, transition here. This poll question, and this one makes me laugh. This one here is from Aaron Butler, and I'm going to say this wrong, in Gerardstown. I think it's how you say it, Gerardstown, West Virginia. And this one makes me laugh. The question is about cussing. And do you cuss more in your head post-COVID than you did pre-COVID? And so you've got your obvious answers there. Yeah, or nope, I only think calm, soothing thoughts when it comes to my students. So we'll let some of those votes here come in, but do you cuss more in your head post-COVID than you did pre-COVID? So we'll let that roll here for another couple of seconds and get those poll results in. As they're rolling in here, we got 2 more guests here coming up for you that I am super excited about. Let's close this poll down here, share those results. 85% of you say, yes, you do cuss more in your head post-COVID. 15%, you only have calm, soothing thoughts when it comes to your students. I need to spend some time with you. Maybe I could learn something from you guys there on that front. Okay, that being said, let's shift here into our next guest, a guy that the impact that he has made and that he continues to make on my life. One of my favorite speakers. I put him in my top 3 on my personal list. Phil Boyte, I'm super excited to welcome to the show here right now. And Phil, I'm not sure where you are. If you're in Carolina, if you're in California, where are you checking in from tonight?
Hey, I am at home. I am thrilled, man. I'm in North Carolina, Chapel Hill area, just loving it, hanging out with some of the grandkids. I think I'm the oldest speaker on the talk tonight, and I'm proud of that, man, because I got grands, and I can send them home when I'm done. So it's pretty awesome. Phil, thanks for having me on, buddy. This is great.
I love it. I love it. It's always great to see you and get to connect with you. I see your Aaron Judge jersey there in the background. And that has to, they have to hurt your heart a little bit. He kind of flirted with the Giants a little bit, but then he didn't. Where are you at on that?
Here's the deal. I am an Aaron Judge fan, and I have it there because he has a platform. And he's using that platform. He's a ball player, but better than that, he's a really outstanding human being. And some of you know, you just heard Farah talk about keynoting CATA. Aaron's mom was the president of CATA about 15 years ago. So she's a teacher. She's an educator. And what he's doing with his platform as a ball player is spectacular. And just love that guy. I met him as a 12-year-old. He wouldn't know me today, but he had size 15 shoes back then or whatever. And just a great human being. So, yeah, would it have been fun to have him as a Giants? Yeah, but you know what? He's with the Yankees, so there they are. So it's all good.
And I personally like it when guys stay with their own teams, right? And I get the business side of it too or whatever, but I'm like, Freddie Freeman, obviously I'm a Braves fan. And when Freddie Freeman went to the Dodgers and that very first game when he came back to Atlanta, I'm just sitting here crying and just I miss Freddie. I want him to be a Brave. There were so many big moments and winning the World Series and those kind of things. So totally respect his decision. But when he was flirting with the Giants, I was like, oh man, that'll get Phil Boyte excited.
That would have been fun, man. That would have been good. Yeah.
Let's talk here a little bit about staff morale, Phil. And you're in schools a ton, and you've heard all the previous speakers talking about staff morale and what are some things that we can do to pour into our colleagues. From your perspective, what are a few things? What are some ideas, some strategies, some tips? How can I lift up my colleagues around me so that they can maintain that fire and their passion for what they do in their classrooms?
I think one thought just comes to me is initiate. Just be the initiator. Take your lunch and go next door and say, hey, can I sit with you today? I think there's one thing that there's a lot of people that are a little bit lonely. There's a lot of people that are just a little bit, I think they're a little bit worried that maybe I'm not doing my best. I just saw something that came across social media, said I spent an insane amount of time wondering if I'm doing it right. At some point, I just remind myself that I'm doing my best. That is enough. And the one cool thing is when your colleague, whether it's your grade mate, your department mate, someone just looks at you, you're doing great. You're doing fine. There's nothing more comforting than your colleague just going, let's do this together. And so I think that's when the staff morale has always been supporting each other. We're going to have administrators come and go, and some will be fabulous. I love what Farah just said. She talked about her principal, Kristen Woods, being amazing and so supportive for her. Those are things that make such a difference. If you follow me on Twitter, I think it was a day or two ago, I forwarded something that said, people remember those little comments that our administrator says or our colleagues say, those little bits of encouragement that says, I love the way you handled that. I stood in your classroom for 10 minutes and I was just so excited to see what you were doing. And so I think those little moments. Earlier, we heard someone say, skip the comparisons. And then how willing are we to fight for our colleagues? Our colleagues, I got a call today from one of my speaker friends who's going through a really hard time. He just needed to share that story with somebody. And I just loved on him. And he reached out because we have this image that we're supposed to have it all together, and we don't. None of us do. And we have those moments, and isn't it cool when there's someone in our building, maybe in our hallway, that we lean over? Debbie Beagle's on this call, and Debbie, you were so transparent with your cancer. And I think not only were you encouraged by your tribe, but you encouraged so many of us by saying, Hakuna Matata, I'm going to do okay. And you're on the other side of it, and you've carried so many of us with you. So Phil, that's what I think we do is I wore the shirt today, Better Together, because we have to remind each other we're together in this. And I love those words. How willing are we to fight for our colleague? And sometimes fighting for them is just being with them.
Absolutely. Just being present. And you're so right about Debbie. Had the opportunity to meet her and interact with her. Just absolute rock star educator. And like you said, just inspiration, like super, super cool. Like, yes, the cream of the crop there. One of the other things that you have behind you there, Phil, is your Believe poster from Ted Lasso. And I am not a TV guy. I'm not a movie guy. I just don't, it's not my thing. But I'm sitting there in your session at CAT. I'm watching you do your thing because I always love it and I always get so many just key takeaways and just, it fills my heart. And I'm sitting there with Paul Doss and your whole thing was around Ted Lasso. And I had heard of Ted Lasso, but I didn't really know like what it was all about. And Paul reaches over and he says, have you watched this Ted Lasso? And I was like, no. He's like, you've got to watch it. And I was like, dude, you know me, I don't watch this stuff. And then you just kept going and kept going. And I was like, okay, if Phil and Paul both say you got to watch Ted Lasso, you got to watch Ted Lasso. I think I've watched that series all the way through, maybe 4 times. Yeah. And every time I see something or I hear something that I hadn't heard before, I cry. Like it's such a powerful show. And I know it's hard to pick just one, but what was your biggest takeaway, your biggest life application that you loved personally from Ted Lasso?
Two things. Number one, the dart scene when he challenges the guy, the owner of the team challenged him, and he's just playing left-handed, and then they get into a bet, and he says, yeah, it's the stuff that people don't know. And the owner, so it leads me, I think the overarching thing about Ted Lasso is this curiosity. And I'm really working on this whole new deal of life is really a curiosity contest. And I want to win the curiosity contest. I want to be so curious that I'm always asking questions. I love to ask people questions on airplanes. I love, Farah, when you and I had a chance to sit at that coffee shop last year when I was in La Quinta, it was so fun because I just had all these questions for you because I know my story. I don't need to tell it. I want to know yours. And I've met so many incredible people going out to Robben Island in South Africa, getting a chance to ask a guy a question, sitting next to a woman of color one time, asking, do you prefer to be called Black or African-American? And she just shared her heart with me. And I'm like, I don't know the answer. And I think that's what the whole Ted Lasso thing did is it created this curiosity. What are they going to talk about next? But I think Ted was curious. Every day when he took the biscuits in, he was curious. And so I think those are 2 things. One was the pointed scene in the throwing darts. And then the other deal when just the whole show is about, can we be curious? What can we learn?
So cool. Be curious. I actually just bought the shirt. It says, be curious, not judgmental. And yeah, just that whole show. Like it's again, I'm not a huge TV guy, but it's the best show I've ever seen, hands down. Like it's not even close. Phil, I love you, dude. And I tell you that all the time, but I hope that you know that you always have this knack for. It made me cry. You have this a way of, you always know. You always know when I need a message. And I'm just so grateful for you and for your friendship and everything that you do, man. And thank you for who you are. not only to me, but to so many people out there, man. Like, you're one of the best that has ever done it, and such a tremendous, just inspiring, inspirational person to so many people, man. And I just sincerely appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you again here, hopefully sooner rather than later, buddy.
Well, I learned from my buddy, Dr. Bob McBride, there's the last word, and I want to get the last word with you right now. Thank you for this ripple effect. I just look at all your friends here and the lives that are being touched. And so thank you for using your platform to touch our lives on January 1st, 2023. Cheers, my friend. All the best.
Love you, dude. Thank you. Phil Boyte, if you've never heard him speak before, like I said, he's in my top 3. He's just so good, so fun, so interactive, and you're going to take something away from him every single time if you have the opportunity to bring him to your school, to your conference, any of those things, just absolutely incredible. He also has one of my favorite books, and where I really fell in love with Phil before I ever met him. It's called School Culture by Design. And if you don't have that in your educational library, you need to make sure that you add that one literally tonight. Get on Amazon, get on his website and order that. It is a game changer when it comes to school culture. And so that being said, our last transition here in the chat box, I would love to hear what is your favorite book on school culture or leadership, and make sure that you put the author in there as well, so that if other people want to link those out, and I'll send those out in the post-conference email as well. So in the chat box, I would love to hear what is your personal favorite book on school culture and or on school leadership. Now, getting ready for our very last speaker of the night, number 18. And he was going to be the opener. I told him he was going to be the starter, but then he had a travel issue, and then Hamish had a travel issue, so we flipped him out. Hamish became the starting pitcher, and my buddy, Dr. Joe Sanfelippo, he turned into the closing pitcher. I have no idea where he's coming from tonight, but I'm super excited right now to welcome Dr. Joe Sanfelippo to the stage. Joe, where are you checking in from, man?
My friend, I am in Missouri today. I just landed and drove about an hour and a half. So I'm in Rolla, Missouri tonight, and I'm going to speak to a group of tomorrow in Dixon, and the next day in Saleville, and then I have another thing in Illinois after that. So excited to talk to some teachers, get them rolling, and hopefully start the second half of the year. And we got to talk about this. The thing is, here's the thing. I love coming on. I love talking to you. You're going to bring me on after a guy that makes you cry? Like, that's what we're doing right now. Like, I'm up here. Hey, let's get excited. Let's get excited. Let's do this. Phil's going to be fantastic. PC, it's going to be, and you're crying. Like, this is where we're at right now. I mean, seriously, I got no shot at this point. How am I supposed to follow Phil? Seriously.
See, that was like last year. I had my grandma on the show, right?
What?
And I was like, well, yeah, and who can follow grandma, right?
Nobody.
That's a tough one. Right, exactly. Like she was the hit. I've had multiple people ask me if grandma was going to be on the show again this year, and I was like, I got to give her a year off. We'll bring her back next year. We'll bring her back in the rotation, man. But no, dude. Hey, super stoked to have you on here. I always love hearing from you. I always love your energy and your inspiration. Let's talk about. We've talked with some of the speakers prior to this about staff morale. Another big issue that administrators and superintendents are facing is with staff retention. And so talk about what are some things that schools can do? How can you create that environment where nobody wants to leave and those teachers want to stay and be a part of your school community?
I think the first thing you need to do is make sure that they feel seen and they feel heard and they feel valued. And that's not about the stuff. Everybody thinks it's about the stuff, right? Are we making sure that we get them the stuff during the teacher appreciation week? Are we getting them the stuff during administrator appreciation week? Are we getting them the stuff? Are we buying them the dinners, buying them the lunches, whatever the case may be, giving them prizes? Those are all great and they need to be done. And I understand that. But at the same time, making sure that you tell people that you're proud of them, because they're doing what they do on a regular basis. When you tell someone that you're proud of them, when you tell them that you love being in that space, when you tell them that they inspire you, now you get yourself into a situation where they want to come back the next day. We talk a lot about the impact of these 30-second moments, right? Like every 30 seconds is an opportunity to build or kill culture. You have 960 30-second opportunities during an 8-hour day to change the life of somebody that you're with. At the same time, if you take these 30-second opportunities and lean into the people and be present and engaged with the people people that you're with in that moment, they're going to want to stay because they know they feel valued, they feel seen, they feel loved, and they want to come back to do the same thing for the people that they serve. I'm at my best when I know stories about people in our building and what they do and how they interact and who they interact with and where their kids are and everything like that. I'm at my worst when I don't. And let's be really honest, there are times where I'm not. Let's just be very clear about that. But I know when I'm at my best from an administrative perspective, and that's when I know and I can know and understand the great things that are happening in classrooms, in hallways, on playgrounds, on fields, on courts, all that stuff. When I know that stuff, when I'm connected to that stuff, I feel better about the work that I'm doing because I know I'm making other people feel better about the work that they're doing.
So true and so powerful. And along those same lines, Joe, one of the other things that you said the very first time I heard you speak, and you've said it numerous times since then, is that everybody is somebody's child. And every time you say that, I instantly think about my mom, right? And she's on right now, and she's in the chat box, and she's commenting and this and that. But everybody is somebody's child. And so I would love for you to talk about that. What does that mean, and how can that play into the staff morale, staff retention piece?
Well, I think that, first of all, we talk about it all the time. Everybody's somebody's kid. Doesn't matter if they're 4, 14, 24, or 44. Everybody's somebody's kid, and everybody's kid deserves to be celebrated. Does not matter if they're 4, 14, 24, or 44, right? So what are we doing to engage the connection with the people out? So here's what ends up happening, or here's what I see that ends up happening. We walk between two places. All of us walk between two places, right? There's school place and the people that love us the most, that give us the most latitude, that also sometimes get the least of us because they love us the most and give us the most latitude. If we can be the connectors between what we see at school and what we and where they go home to, now we've created value for the two places. And if we're the connector in that, now all of a sudden we get momentum for the work that we do. If I see a teacher doing great things in her classroom or in his class, let's say in her classroom, and I see her just doing amazing things with the kids in that space, not only am I going to acknowledge to her that she's doing great things, but I'm also going to extend the conversation to somebody who wasn't there, right? We live in this recognize, acknowledge, extend model, right? What are you doing to put yourself in the right mindset to recognize the greatness of your colleagues, acknowledge the greatness of your colleagues, and then extend the conversation to somebody who wasn't there? Because if you recognize it, acknowledge, and extend it to somebody who was, see, here's the thing. A lot of us do the first two things, right? We recognize it and we acknowledge it. And that's great for the two people that are in that space. But when you extend the conversation to the child of the teacher, or to the parent of the teacher, or to the spouse of the teacher, or to the best friend of the teacher, or to somebody who's in a different hallway who doesn't get a chance to see what that teacher does on a regular basis. When you extend the conversation to that person to make sure that that person knows that the great things that are happening in that space, what inevitably happens is the person that you extend conversation to is going to find the person doing great things and make sure that the person knows that they're doing great things. And the reason that they do it is because at some point somebody did it for them and it felt good. And we just want to live and work in a place that feel good. Man, I'm not even talking about great. Let's get to good, okay? Because it's a lot easier to get to great when you start at good. It's hard to have a great day when you spill coffee on your way to work, right? If you can walk in and you feel good, you got a better shot at great. So we live in that recognize, acknowledge, and extend conversation on a regular basis, because that allows us to be in a spot where we can extend the greatness that happens with the adults in the space. It's really hard to take care of kids when we're not taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids. And extending conversations to people who weren't there, who didn't get a chance to see the greatness that happened with their colleagues, allows opportunity for momentum along the way.
I love that, man. That's so powerful. And you said so many things there that hold so true and that resonate, I know, with everybody that's watching this here right now. Joe, we all evolve as educators, right? And obviously, like, you didn't just get into the world of education and be the rock star educator that you are today. When did it click for you? And what was there a light bulb moment of like, this is what it is. This is what it's all about?
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. I'm not like a rock star. I'm just really loud, man. Like, that's it. Like I said in my superintendent interview 12 years ago, and I sat in with these people, and I said to them, "How am I going to know if I'm successful in this role?" And one of the board members stood up and she said, "We have a lot of really great things happening in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, but nobody knows about them." And I said to her, I might not be the best superintendent you'll hire, but I am the loudest person on earth. If there are great things happening around here, I can promise you that people are going to hear about the great things happening in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. And I have just lived that for 12 years. Honestly, all I want to know, I want the people that are in school every day. I want them to feel the way that I feel when I talk about them. I want them to walk to every place that they go with their Go Cricket stuff on. I want them to walk into places knowing that somebody's going to recognize them for the work that they do. I want them to go. I want them to talk about the work. I want them to connect with people. I want them to make sure that they walk around with pride everywhere they go because somebody has heard about the great things that they do. And that's what I just keep thinking about every time. If I can be the extender, if I can be the one that extends all these great conversations about the incredible things that are already people in Fall Creek, Wisconsin were amazing before I showed up. And they're going to be amazing after I left. And if the only thing that I can do is shed some light on the amazing things that are happening with 845 kids and 120 staff members in a village of 1,300 people so the world knows what's happening, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's how I keep feeding this thing all day. Because all I want to do is I want people to know how great they are. If they knew how great they were, I mean, seriously, they change the lives of kids on a regular basis, on a daily basis. We talk about the idea people walk into their classrooms in our school district and they see their name on a list or on a desk or on a wall, and they know if they're supposed to be in that room. And then they look into our people's eyes. They look into our teachers' eyes and they know if they belong. And those are two different things. And so when that happens in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, I can go out and tell the world about it because it's real, it's happening every day, and I know how inspiring these people are to the community that they serve.
Dude, I tell you this every time that we talk, but the day is going to come when I'm going to meet you in person and I'm going to give you the biggest bear hug that you've probably ever gotten. And I might even give you a headbutt too, man. I just love you, dude. I love your energy. I love your passion, and just what you stand for and what you represent, the bike checks that you do on Twitter, I die. It's like every single time I die with the bike racks. Last question I want to ask you about the crickets. It cracks me up every time. And then sometimes you'll do these polls and these competitions on like crazy mascot names. What are 2 or 3 or however many you got of like the craziest mascots that you've heard of?
Oh man. Okay. So the best mascots that I think I've ever, there's a couple of them because there are some that are just standalone mascots. And then there are some that are like, that are connected to schools. So the best ones that are connected to schools, there's a Webb High School in Missouri, I think, and they're the Webb Feet. Yep. That's right. They're the Webb Feet. That's the thing. They're the feet. Right. And then there's there's the Frankfurt hot dogs. Those are great. The pretzels, Freeport pretzels, and my all-time favorite, and this is the best one, man. You can't beat it. The Arkansas School for the Deaf Leopards. That's real, PC. That's real. That happened. And it happened before the band showed up. So let's be honest. They need some royalties out of this thing, man. I'm telling you right now.
Right? Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Yeah, I always love it when you do the competitions and the brackets and stuff.
The polka dots, West Virginia, right? the polka high school dots. Those are incredible. I mean, come on. This is you can't go wrong.
I love it, dude. Joe, last thing, let's end with this. Give me 60 seconds. All these educators that are on here, they're the rock stars on their campus. They pour everything they have into their schools. Yeah. They're getting ready to start the new semester. What do you say to them?
Well, take care of each other. I'll tell you every time I go talk to somebody, I tell a group, I tell them I need 2 things. I need you to know your value and I need to make sure that the person next to you knows theirs because nobody's taking care of us. Right? And when it comes down to it, when people don't know what you do, they make up what you do. So put yourself in a position to make sure that people know and understand the greatness that's happening. People will say, well, I'm bragging. That feels like I'm bragging. I don't feel like I want to brag on the work. I said, don't. I don't care. But guess what? You can brag on your colleague, right? You don't have to brag on yourself. Don't brag on the person next door. How many times do you go next door? How many times do you go next door and have a conversation about a schedule change or a logistical thing or something that you're upset about versus how often do you go next door and say, I just taught this really great lesson? We don't do it because we're afraid of the reaction. But if we build momentum, we put ourselves in a different spot. The conversation that we talk about a lot is that people aren't going to change the way they talk about school until we change the way that we talk about school. And if the only thing that we do is change the way that we talk about school, we give everybody in school an opportunity to walk taller and go to places with their head held high because they change the lives of kids, man. That's what they do.
And that's about as powerful as it gets, man. Joe, thank you so much. Again, I know you're on the road and like crazy busy schedule. It means the world to me that you make the time to be a part of this. Thank you for who you are and for pouring so much of yourself into other people, myself included. I love you, man. I think the absolute world of you. Good luck this week. And again, like I said, I can't wait to meet you in person, man. It's going to happen soon.
I hope so. Take care, PC. Thanks for bringing everybody together. And if there's ever anything I can do for anybody on the call, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. Take care, everybody. Go Crickets.
Thanks so much. There you go. Go Crickets. I knew it was coming. Dr. Joe Sanfelippo, again, another guy, if you don't follow on social media, so many powerful nuggets, not only on leadership and education, but there's a ton of humor that's involved in there as well. He's got some great books out there, just a great person to follow and be connected with. And so there you go. That's all I got for you. 18 of the best people that I know. I got to give some shout outs. First of all, to Jostens for sponsoring the event and being the power behind making this event happen. Again, to Bradley Skinner, DJ Phony Stark, the dude absolutely crushed it. Not only with the pre-show, but with the dance breaks in there as well. To my guy, Matt, and I know Derek was there too as backup, but Matt at 394 Productions, who makes all the magic happen behind the scenes. Erica Mativier, she does all the graphic design, and she's an awesome person, and I'm very grateful for Erica and for our friendship. And she just, like, all the posts that you see and stuff on social media, like, that's all of her stuff. She is absolutely like rock star. All of the 18 guests that were on the show, you guys heard from each and every single one of them. They're unbelievable people. This is totally free. They don't ask for a dime, not a single one of them. They do it because they love kids and they love educators. And I'm just blessed to have an unbelievable network of people that are willing to give back and to pour into other people. Again, they did all of this stuff completely for free. So any chance that you have to support those other 18 people, please do so, because they're just some of the best people on the planet. And then to each and every single one of you for making the time to be here on the show here tonight. It means the absolute world to me. I know it's like New Year's Day and there's a million other things you could be doing. It means the world to me that you guys are here. From the bottom of my heart, I see you, I hear you, and I love you. Have an unbelievable semester. Chase your dreams, kids. Peace.